I call to order the City of Glenwood Springs regular City Council meeting. It is December 4th, 2025. Second to last meeting for the year. Ryan, would you please take a roll call?
Mayor Dame.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski. Councillor Townsley. Councillor Schmall. Councillor Weimer. Councillor Schachter. Councillor Smith. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ryan. Any changes to the agenda? We'll see none. Any disclosure of conflict of interest by councillors? Also see none. Excellent. We'll move into citizens appearing before council for items that are not on the agenda. And you guys know the drill. You got 3 minutes. Please state your name and whether you live in the city or not.
I don't have my glasses, so I'm planning on reading. I don't know how this is going to go.
If they were.
Oh, God, I can't see out of these.
You're welcome to mine. They're not very high powered, but you're welcome to try them.
All everything glasses.
Thank you. I used to have ones just like. Thanks, Karen. Good evening, council and Mayor Dem. I think you all should go out and look at the moon. It's gorgeous. My God. But anyway, I wanted to start with, I'm really.
Your name and
Oh,
whether you live in the
sorry.
city or not.
Chase.
All good.
Lori Chase. And I live here in Glenwood.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Anyway, take a look at the moon, and I'm really pleased with the speed cameras, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here about an incident that I had happen to me, my experience on Sunday with a police officer. So I just wanted to read really quickly the mission statement of the police department. And it says to protect with integrity and courage and to serve with honor and compassion. Then it goes on the law enforcement code of ethics. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it says, I will maintain courageous calm in the face of danger, scorn or ridicule, develop self-restraint, and be constantly mindful of the welfare of others. It goes on to say in the next paragraph, I will enforce the law courteously and appropriately without fear or favor, malice, or ill will, never employing unnecessary force, never accepting gratitude. So that being said, the police are civil servants, just like all of us, all of you guys, and we're supposedly the bosses, but I don't think so. Anyway, my first email was to John Hassel, and it was Sunday, November 23rd at 12:33 p.m., right after the officer left. Hi, John. So far, the last 10 or 15 minutes or so, one of the officers, or at least somebody in the Glenwood Spring Police Department car, blocked our driveway. I asked him very politely if he could move his car out of the driveway since it was our only ingress and egress. He informed me that he would take the time he needed regardless of what I needed. And he said, too bad. You're just going to have to wait, is what his words to me were. And as you can imagine, that didn't sit very well with me. But when I asked for his badge number, he said he didn't have one. And I just looked at him. I go, you're behaving like an ass. He would not identify himself. And he goes, well, so are you. And then I did say that I was going to talk to Chief Hassel. And he goes, go right ahead. He was very snarky in his response. At least that's how I took it. Then I wrote something to Steve and Marco. I just sent this off to John Hassel, and I want something done about that. This is really uncalled for. The man was rude, would not give his name. I would like to remind him that the police department, everyone that works for the city, you actually work for us. And I did not approach this man in a rude manner.
That was 3 minutes, unfortunately.
Seriously?
Yeah, yes, it was.
Well, I never received any calls back from anyone. Nothing was
I
ever
wrote,
done.
I wrote back to you.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
But the chief of police did not, or John Hassel did not. And that's wrong. You don't tell somebody too bad, so sad.
Okay. Thank you, Lori.
What,
Before, before we move into the next one, Steve, is there anything we could look into, or is this something we need to address, or how do you feel?
Yeah, I've looked into it along with chief and deputy chief. I did talk to Lori about this, and just so you guys know, I asked John not to call her back because I was dealing with Lori, so.
Okay. So if there's any additional stuff that should be done, you guys are gonna handle that, right? Okay, excellent. Thank you, thank you.
Can I be included on that? No?
They know what they're doing, so we're gonna have to leave it to them.
Hmm.
Anybody else? Please, name and whether you live in the city or not.
Ned Carter, I live in Glenwood Springs, have for about 12, 13 years, owned for a little over 5. My first experience with Glenwood Springs was when I was hit, when Terry was police chief, by a California plate, California license, no insurance. Glenwood refused to give him a ticket for no insurance. I was left holding the bag. My next wonderful experience was with John, that he was, excuse my language, playing king shit cop, running along at least 10 miles an hour faster than the speed limit in the left-hand lane. I gave a copy of the CD to Joe Darris, didn't want to make it formal. But he keeps saying, well, you wouldn't say you took it. Fifth Amendment, I know police officers hate our Bill of Rights. Then we come down to Officer Hampton, who responded to my call of an oxygen delivery vehicle sitting in a handicap spot. She told me if he doesn't have a placard, he'll get a ticket. Didn't happen. Then in February, I was out of town. I've got a nice 99 Lexus on the street. A false police report was made and accepted, claiming it was stolen, but it's registered right across the street, insured, current plate, looks nice, but I got a red tag. You don't do them everywhere. Selective malicious. I requested NY because somebody that works for Glenwood Fire, our fine city manager, can attest to that. I was pushing since what, June, for them to get on a plate on their Montana car, and they've been here. Oh, it got ticketed in 2001 and was never touched again. I requested through Cora, which John seems to have a problem with, all the information. I was given a narrative, and the heavyset girl down in the police station, well, you can make another request. That wasn't what I requested. I'll send you all a copy of what I requested. Then I had an issue where that man back there works for Glenwood City, supposedly of the fire marshal, has made us less safe in our building. He actually told me when the unit below me, well, you've got a fire detector. I might not look disabled, but it's surprising what $20,000 a week in meds will do. COVID vaccine, 1 dose. I'm still waiting. I'm sorry. I made that request back in February. I finally got the information today. I paid for it back in March, and there's more. But
And the same goes for you.
I'll
Three
be in my
minutes is
3
up.
minutes. I'll see you again so we can continue this conversation.
All right,
But,
thank you, Ned.
Thank you, and I hope you all have a very nice evening, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Again, appreciate you two being here and pointing this stuff out. Is there anything we need to, Steve,
No, I'm happy to talk to.
to take care of it?
I'd like to talk to-
Okay, all right, great, thank you. All right, thanks, everybody. Anybody else from the public here to speak on items not on the agenda? We'll see none. We'll close the public portion of the meeting and we'll move into council announcements. I wouldn't respond since they left the room, in my opinion, but I think we should just let it be. It's up to me.
It's up to
Great.
you guys.
You got a short comment? Okay. If it's an angry comment at them, I don't want you to say it.
I will not say anything in anger toward them.
All right.
I-
Somehow I cannot turn,
Yeah.
I can't.
I'm taking the safe route.
How's that?
All right, I am not speaking for council, but we do have a provision for council to respond to public comments. And I believe in transparency, and I believe we have this item for items not on the agenda. But I do take offense, and I have a low tolerance for people who use that for specifically accusing staff and using it, which for us is hearsay. And as a complaint procedure, we have a city manager who will take personnel information anytime. And we have thousands of responses from our public safety officers and very few, if any, negative responses. So I just want to say, as one of your council people, I take offense for using the public agenda for that kind of accusation and disparagement. And I hope it doesn't continue. We can use our city manager as the correct venue for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schachter and Councillor Schmal.
Yeah, I share your frustration with people getting their 3 minutes of time to complain about something. But I also believe that our goal as a city, our goal that's been adopted, is to be customer oriented. The citizens are our customers, and I would respectfully suggest that they tried, in their minds, they tried to resolve the issues before they came to tell us about them. Somehow that wasn't enough, that they felt they had to come and give it to us here. There's always two sides. And while we may have tried to appease their complaint, we maybe could try more. I don't know, but think of it from a customer service standpoint. If the customer is not happy, we haven't achieved our goal completely.
Okay, thank you. Valid comments. Anything else? Yep. Councillor Townsley.
I was going for council comments. I was gonna move this thing along. I don't know the whole story, so I can't.
Council announcements, you mean? All right, Councillor Townsley.
Okay. So from the rec department, a couple things. The bazaar is this Saturday, 9 to 4. There's gonna be 54 vendors there, way more than they have had in the past. They're looking forward to it. There's gonna be all sorts of good things there. The other piece that's going on until then, the Black Friday sale on memberships to the community center and whatnot, it goes through the end of the bazaar. It's 15% off. And it's really actually 20% off, because when you go into next year, it's going to be, the fees are going up by 5%. So if you know of anybody, they want to get something, I don't know why we're giving it this way. I think we should have less because we need more money for Parks and Rec, but apparently we're doing it, so we should tell everybody about it. So 20% off basically if you get your pass before the end of the bazaar. And then on New Year's Eve, from 12 to 3, they're going to have free music over there, free games. The ice skating will be free. The pool is going to be free. So there's a time for anybody to come and look at the community center and take advantage of that and have a good time down there.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Free stuff from your government.
That's excellent.
Love it.
Thank you, Dave. Anybody else? Any announcements? Councillor Smith.
Transportation Commission met this week and among other things, I still like this word, had a robust discussion about bike sharing, the bicycle share concept that the City Council has entertained and discussed with RAFTA and with WeCycle over the time. It's a service that's in many other towns in the valley, but not in Glenwood Springs. The Transportation Commission has a long-standing recommendation that the city should not invest in bike share until a basic threshold of connectivity for bicycles is complete in the town. They realize that they need to help define that, so they spend a good long session trying to pick particular locations and gaps in the continuity of that network. And so they're coming gradually with another discussion or two after this week's to bring back a recommended cookbook. City engineering and city transportation staff were there at the meeting, and so we're contributing and we're bouncing ideas really well. It was a very productive discussion. You may have noticed either just by passing by or by conversation that Silver Sage neighborhood is back in business. This is the project that, among other things, built what I like to call the teacher housing out toward the airport on Airport Road, down the base of the hill where the water tanks are. Above the water tanks, there was approved in 2012 or 13, I think, a series of duplexes, 20 duplexes with 40 houses. That has started. The grading has begun. The access road is plowed up there from the 4-mile road side. So it's active. I've already heard from 2 citizens. You may hear from people what's going on up there. So 40 duplex homes coming in gradually up there. This is not a city project, but it's a city visibility. The rock retaining wall along South Midland got spruced up in the last couple of weeks. In some really cold weather, hardworking people were out there under contract to somebody, replastering and repainting that wall. It looks much nicer. A little bit of extracurricular activity. The Glenwood Springs Kiwanis Club is taking on refinishing and repainting the furniture from Bethel Plaza. It's going to be this weekend, a 3-day project the club is taking on. It's going to end up being transforming those kind of worn chairs and tables into the nice gleaming color, matching the color just recently deployed on North Landing, with a net savings to DDA, the Downtown Development Association responsible for all this, with net savings to DDA of about $20,000. So it's kind of a fun teamwork project, all made possible in turn by Fleet Maintenance Building providing a bay over the weekend where there'll be heated space to do this work. So it's really kind of a fun little effort. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Any other announcements? We'll see none. I'd just like to add to Councillor Townsley's announcement that if you feel like having a chat with your favorite or least favorite councillors, we will be at the bazaar this Saturday from 9 to 1. So anybody that wants to come in and give us kudos or not, come see us at the bazaar between 9 and 1. I think we're all going to be there at one point or another.
You get the nod.
Yeah, I get the nod. That's fine. No problem. So if I see no other announcements, then I will move into the consent agenda with 9 items on it, and I'm entertaining a motion for the consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem Solinsky.
I move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve. Councillor Townsley.
I second that.
And a second. Any discussion about the consent agenda? If I see none, all in favor say aye. Aye. And those opposed? We'll see none. Excellent. Thank you. Consent agenda is approved. Moving into our actions and or presentations for tonight. Item 7 tonight is the school district, RE1. And they're here with an update and a request for financial assistance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can kind of tee this one up.
Yes, please, Steve.
We have supported the Roaring Fork School District in Glenwood Springs schools for some youth mental health counseling for a number of years now. The school district did not make a request during the regular budget cycle this year for that funding because they were pursuing other possible avenues and didn't really have a very specific request. We've expected this to come forward. They're going to give us a quick update on the results that they've had in their counseling with Hope Center. And then there will be a request for funding for $160,000 for marijuana and tobacco tax that you guys can consider when they're finished.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Steve. We'll give him a minute to set up the presentation and, oh, it's already there. Excellent. Look at that.
Great, thanks. Well, good evening. My name is Anna Cole, Superintendent, Roaring Fork Schools. With me is Kelly Medina, Director of Student and Family Services. We're here on an update of our partnership with the City of Glenwood Springs around school-based mental health. For the last couple of years, the city has invested funding in the schools, a lot of the tobacco and marijuana tax funding, to provide school-based mental health clinicians in our public schools in the city of Glenwood Springs. We have been moving because of pressures on funding and some of the blended funding to support this work. We have been moving towards scaling down this project and looking at, we have continued to look for alternate funding sources, some of which we've secured to keep the project moving and to keep those positions in our schools, but are back because of continued concerns about student well-being. And the current request is for $160,000, which would support the funding of 2 school-based mental health providers at Glenwood Springs Middle, one at Glenwood Springs Middle School and one at Glenwood Springs High School. We have other funding from the Colorado Department of Law for a second position at Glenwood Springs High School. So just want to give you a bit of an update on the program. You know, we've done this for a few years and it's been a remarkable program in terms of increasing access for students to school-based mental health services, for reducing stigma around access. And as if you look into the packet, there's pretty great reports from Aspen Hope Center, who is our contractor, that the Aspen Hope Center actually staffs and trains and supports the school-based clinicians. And so their annual reports have a lot of data about impact and usage and who's connected. One of the things that we are most proud of in this partnership is that you actually see access to school-based mental health that reflects the racial, linguistic diversity of our community, which is really exciting that we're seeing all kids equally accessing these services. We are making this ask again, I think particularly this fall. We continue to see mental and behavioral health needs that exceed our educator and counselor capacity, specifically around suicidality of our students. I think we've seen as a nation, and certainly in the state of Colorado, increases in I would say depression, suicidality with teenagers, and that is still here and still present in our communities. And we really believe that these services are critical for keeping kids safe and well. Just an overview of the services. This is our current program year status, 25-26. So you can see how we blend funding to create, to strengthen access for school-based mental health. You can see our partners from Town of Basalt, Eagle, Pitkin, Carbondale. The Hope Center does a lot of fundraising and grant writing. We've had a long run with the Colorado Department of Education School Health Professional Grant that has helped fund these positions. And that grant will sunset for us at the end of this school year. Which is why we are planning to scale back this program across the district, and we'll really be focusing on trying to preserve services at our high schools and middle schools where possible. So you'll see this is kind of how we're starting to look at the 26-27 school year, where we see funding being able to be leveraged. I would correct and actually add that Pitkin County also does invest in the Carbondale schools, so that's just an error on this slide. We were able, Kelly Medina and her team were able to secure a Colorado Department of Law grant that'll cover us for the next 3 years to have a school-based mental health provider at Glenwood Springs High School. So we're really grateful for that support from the Attorney General's office. And so the ask from City of Glenwood Springs, this $160,000 would help us fund those 2 positions, help us ensure that we still have 2 positions at Glenwood Springs High School, 1 at Glenwood Springs Middle School. A little bit of information of why we see these programs being incredibly helpful, impactful, and very well aligned to, I think, the intent of a lot of our tobacco and marijuana taxes, which were meant to really reduce the needs of and be, taxes that we could increase revenue to then help offset and prevent the kinds of behaviors that lead to tobacco and marijuana usage, particularly in youth. Have also shared with council the Aspen Hope Center's annual report that we're really grateful for partners at the Hope Center that they provide as part of these services. Happy to take your questions on the program, and either Kelly or I happy to respond. And if you have things that come up later, please don't hesitate to reach out.
All right, thank you very much for the information. Always good to see you. Back to council for questions. We'll start with Councillor Schmall.
Do you know at this point the enrollment percentage increase or decline in the schools this year?
It's a little different for every school. So it's been up somewhere in the like 2 to 6%, I would say, is our range. And like our Glenwood schools, we're seeing, the only school that everybody declined, we projected that all our schools would decline a little bit due to a number of different reasons. It's interesting when we look at withdrawal data, it's a little bit, all we know is where kids are going. And we see a lot of kids moving to Western Garfield. We see kids moving to the Front Range. We see kids and families moving out of state. We see kids and families moving out of country, and almost equal proportions of all of those. So there's a lot of pressures that I think are shaking our enrollment. Glenwood Springs Elementary is actually holding steady for us right now in terms of enrollment. We're seeing dips, larger declines at Sopris, at Glenwood Springs Middle School, and Glenwood Springs High School. So probably in that 2 to 5% is kind of what we're thinking. I'll be quite honest with you. We had a demographer last fall do a kind of a 10-year demographic study for the entire Roaring Fork School District that really projected that we would start to drop and then hold at about 5 to 10 years. We built our budgets this school year based on those projections, and 10 out of our 12 schools came in lower than those projections. The only schools that met or were slightly above were Glenwood Springs Elementary and Basalt Elementary.
I guess, so is the school enrollment had been increasing?
Yes.
So it's a swing from the percentage increase to the 6% decrease, right? And
Yeah,
swing is probably more than 6%.
Yeah, we just recently were looking at some data. The Colorado School Finance Project annually gives us kind of this 20-year study on our enrollment and special student populations and staffing ratios and budgets and inflation and salaries. And it was really fascinating to look at the enrollment trends for the Roaring Fork schools. I think what we saw was similar to kind of state of Colorado, where we saw enrollment kind of grow up until COVID. And then we saw a big drop where a lot of kids and families just stayed home during those years, and not all of them came back. So there's been kind of a slow pickup. For us, it's a little complicated, our enrollment history, because Two Rivers Community School was a charter school that wasn't part of the Roaring Fork schools. And then in 2021-22 became part of the district. So we see this bump in our enrollment in 21-22 when they joined us. But I think if you took that out, you do actually see kind of this leveling. And then what the demographer has projected is a slow decline and then a stabilization in the next 5 to 10 years. We actually, because the projections were not quite accurate, we re-engaged with our demographer and are expecting in the next month revised projections for the next 10 years. So it's an interesting, it's certainly something we could revisit as a team, because I think it's interesting for who we are as towns and communities looking at these projections. They follow trends across the state of Colorado, across the country. And I think for us, it's complicated by cost of living to make some of these feel a little bit more pronounced at the moment. But it's definitely something that we're trying to, as a district, wrap our heads around and manage. And it feels like we're trying to keep up right now with trying to really grasp where enrollment is and where it's going. It's a really interesting and complicated picture of our communities.
Thank you. One other question. A big part of the motivation is wellness, suicide prevention. Have there been suicides in the schools in the past couple of years?
I can't state the specific data on that. I can tell you that we have absolutely done, we monitor and manage screeners. We do suicide screeners for kids that are indicating to us that they're struggling. We know, again, we don't really track because we don't own this data, but we know that there have been children over the past couple months that have been hospitalized for active suicidation. Because we work with them and their families when they re-enter, when they come back to school, to make sure that they have safety plans and trusted adults, and that we've got eyes on them when they're with us, and that we're then coordinating with community partners to make sure kids and families have support. So there are absolutely, I think we would say, particularly this fall, suicidation among our teenagers in and around Glenwood Springs, Carbondale, Western Glenwood feels concerning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Smith.
Is this a time to be asking questions of city staff or just of the presenters?
You can do both.
Great, thank
Yep.
you. I'm a little embarrassed I didn't track this detail at the time. When you gave us an updated sheets on the city budget for the marijuana and tobacco money as part of nice background. That was very helpful. I didn't look at it in that level of detail at the full city budget time, but I thought that some of that marijuana and tobacco money is also going to activities in Parks and Recreation Department.
Yeah, that's correct. We have $100,000 that goes to youth passes for after-school activities when they don't have somewhere else to go.
So that's the money that's reflected in here as transferred to general fund.
Correct.
Sure, thank you. And so we still are able to, a request like this is not going to cut into that.
No, sir. Between marijuana and tobacco, we have about $410,000 of available reserves. This $160,000 request could be granted, and we would still have about $250,000 left. We expected this request to come.
Nice job. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Oh, Councillor Weimer.
Anna, you kind of finished that last statement. You're concerned about suicide. One kid is too many, right? You should be concerned about that, but just thoughts or insight into how are we relative to other communities, other valleys, other parts of the state, whatever.
Great question. We are probably within 3 to 4 months of having our data from our Healthy Kids Colorado survey, and that is our best comparative data that would answer that question. And I think I've shared that with council in the past. It's a survey we do in odd years. We get the data way too late. It's not tied to individual kids. So it's sometimes quite frustrating for us because it's not actionable, and it has a lot of questions about suicidation. Have you attempted suicide? Those sorts of things. So I would love to get back to you on that because we're very close. The kids took the survey this fall. We've got some data. What we don't have is the trend data and the comparative data yet. Historically, we tend to be a little higher than the state, a couple percentage points for our students as compared to our region, which is kind of Western Slope over to Grand Junction, and as compared to the state. There's some area, the Healthy Kids Colorado survey looks at a number of risk and protective factors, from how many fruits kids eat to how much exercise to whether they feel bullied on their way to school, in their communities at school, where at school. And it gets into a lot of risky behaviors around suicidation, depression, anxiety. And so I would love to follow up and provide you all that information because it's very interesting and it helps us, I think, monitor trends. It's fascinating. I think a testament to our towns and cities. When we instituted tobacco taxes, we actually saw concrete data from our students. There's questions about how easy is it for you to get vape pens, tobacco, and we saw in the years that followed those changes and pushing age limits and getting rid of flavor bans, kids saying it's harder to access those things. So we do see that data responsive to some of the policy moves that our towns and counties are making. But I would love to, and I can follow up with Steve when we have that data and share that with you, because it would answer that question really well.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then this next one, it's out of our control. I'm just asking more out of, I think, just general curiosity. Like, what's the linkage in your guys' opinions or the research that you guys have read? Like social media, cell phones, and having the phones in the classroom or not in the classroom. Does that have any sort of bearing or consequence on mental health?
That's like the $1 million question. We think so. Right.
I think so too.
We think so.
No, it just feels intuitive.
It feels like it. And it's something, it's so interesting. We have every school in our district has cell phone policies, and they're a little different at all the schools. Colorado State, the legislature has required us to have a district policy on cell phones by the end of the school year. Kelly's leading a lot of work with some of our family advisory councils to do a first draft of that. It'll come before our board this spring. We'll have some community input sessions on it. But we are grappling with our families about kind of where we need to be with social media, not social media, but really screens in schools. I think it's a complicating factor. And, you know, our obligation to our students and our community is that we create high quality learning environments. And I can certainly say from being a parent of teenagers that a screen is not conducive to a healthy learning environment. And so we're really trying to figure that out. And how do we balance that, and balance that especially during a time when many of our students, especially our secondary high school students, are caregivers for their younger siblings and are the person that is called if their first grade sibling is sick. A lot of our students are taking care of their parent, like they need that connectivity is also important. So it's tough. But I would say we think it's a factor that contributes, and you'll hear more from us on how we're going to manage that in schools this year.
I will say, like, even within the high school student groups that I help facilitate these meetings, they're also very divided. Like, they feel like a cell phone's a really helpful and powerful tool, but it's going back to the point of like, how are we safeguarding it as parents and as families? Because there's also that dark side of it. And I think part of that cell phone policy work is also in hopes in the future of providing better education to parents. Like, it's a powerful tool, and it also kind of comes with like a caution, like a disclosure sign of like.
For sure, yeah.
I did just literally last night sent out our community newsletter with a whole ton of resources for parents saying, please keep your kids off screens over the breaks. Because it is there. I mean, it's not conducive to learning. And I think, you know, a lot of the research is starting to point that
It's so damaging.
It's well-being.
Yeah,
either.
social media is just awful. Yeah, so good luck with all of that.
Thanks. It definitely takes a village. And
Yeah.
so we're planning on a safety forum at the end of January. I expect social media to show up, cell phone policies to show up that way. And then, you know, these cell phone policies, I know people are very interested. So those are community conversations. You know, we only have kids 27%, less than 27% of their waking hours. So that's a lot of time when they're not with us. And we hope they're at the rec center.
Yeah.
We hope they are, engaging socially outside of our schools. And we really appreciate the partnerships that we have with the city on those.
Thank you. Councilor Schachter.
Just a quick question. I noticed from your funding slides, Up Valley, the couple counties have helped. Down Valley, has Garfield County been a participant in the past? I understand. Or did you make an ask this year as well?
You know, not in this way with school-based mental health.
Thank
It's been tricky. You know, Garfield County covers 3 school districts. Pitkin covers 2, Eagle covers 2. And Garfield has yet to really support in this way in our schools. I mean, I will say, and a lot due to Kelly's leadership, she oversees our Family Resource Center. All the Garfield County school districts now have a Family Resource Center. Kel's kind of the big sister and mentor to a lot of those programs. Aspen Hope Center over time has built relationships. There is school-based mental health happening in Garfield RE2 and in Garfield 16, Parachute Battlement Mesa. But we have yet to be successful on leveraging any county dollars to support this work. But we continue to work on that.
Thank you.
Councilor Townsley.
One quick question, just since this is about mental health a lot. What are we doing as far as violence in the schools? You know, we read about these things. How are we approaching this to be on the front of that versus the back reactive side of that?
Great question. 2 years ago, when I first stepped into the role, we did a series of community safety forums because it was really important for me that as the Roaring Fork schools, we can say that we're doing everything reasonably possible to keep our schools safe. I would say, and I know we talked about this a little bit during work sessions, our real lane as educators is to be trusted adults and build relationships with kids. We want to be the people kids come to when they have concerns about each other, about themselves, about things they're reading, seeing. And so we really feel like our best and first line of safety is relationships with kids so that they can come to us when they have concerns. They're actually the best source of information when it comes to violence in the schools. Then there are there's a lot of research around how we keep schools safe. There's this kind of the theory of these 5 pillars of safety. About 2 years ago, the Roaring Fork Schools invested in a school safety and security officer. Dustin Gehring came to us, former law enforcement. He now leads and makes sure that our practices are aligned to these 5 pillars of school safety. It has to do certainly with school relationships, preventative work, social emotional well-being programs, education, partnerships like school-based mental health. Then it moves into some technical, tactical things like secure entries. In the last bond that we passed in 2015, we redid all of our entries to all of our schools so that we had double doors. We're able to have kind of best practice evidence-based secure entries and exits. There's a number of different things that we do, and our safety and security coordinator makes sure that our practices are being implemented. In our safety forums that we had 2 years ago, and we have phenomenal relationships with local law enforcement in city of Glenwood Springs, town of Carbondale, town of Basalt. Every time we talk to the chiefs and say, you know, what are we not doing well? And we are continually refining and implementing things. I would say our biggest vulnerability, and most of the time the chiefs have agree with this, is our high school open campuses. I would say, I think I can firmly say we are doing everything reasonably possible to keep our schools safe, except for that. And that is something that's going to be a culture shift, and it's tricky. We're going to need to change staffing. We have to think differently about our bell schedules, about how our schools run. They were not built to have lunch our lunchroom at Glenwood Springs High School, I think, can seat like 150 kids. So that's, I think, when I think of school safety, that's the big piece that's still sticky, that feels like we don't have a plan and a way to hold and stay accountable. We're still talking about it. We're still working on it and trying to figure out what those barriers are. We'll have a school safety forum January 27th, where we'll share what we're doing around these 5 pillars, what our work looks like, where the gaps, strengths are, opportunities to do better, and then continually hear from families and kids on where they're feeling unsafe. I hope that answers a little bit, but it's definitely a moving target. It continues to feel very dynamic. It is very scary. It seems one of those very strange things that we have to invest in all these ways and think about our schools in these ways. We have incredible partnerships in the district with law enforcement, with nonprofits. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else.
And I would say reporting directly from students has been really helpful with our Safe to Tell system. When students hear from other peers how they're feeling and just in anticipation, that's been a really helpful strategy to get ahead of it too, like being able to have students disclose in an anonymous way so that they feel comfortable in making sure that they're safe.
Thanks. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Zielinski.
Thank you. This is a little anecdotal, but, you know, personally, one thing that really helps with my mental health is physical activity. And so I recently started working with a pre-collegiate program. And one of the young ladies that I was talking with, she was talking about how she's going to have to give up some of her extracurriculars because she's having a hard time keeping academics. And I'm like, I'm only with them for like just 30 minutes. And so it's such a break. Are there tutoring? What sort of support is around that? Because I feel like that balance is really important. And I would love to, as kind of an adult advisor, help be able to gear towards that. And I'm just wondering if that's part of that whole mental health kind of policy or approach. And if you could just like expand on that just a little bit for me.
For sure. I know Kelly can speak to this as well. First of all, thank you for being involved in pre-collegiate. It's such an amazing program, and it takes a village to run that program. So thank you.
Yeah.
Those mentorships are really powerful. But absolutely. Like, you know, physical activity is so important to social emotional well-being, learning. I mean, especially in our elementary and middle schools, those little guys, after they come back from PE or an active recess, are so much more ready to learn. We actually let our school, like I would say K-8, especially kindergarten through 8th grade, there's a lot of autonomy in how our schools set up their schedules. We have recommendations on physical activity and recess. Our schools really work hard to try to utilize every minute of every day. A lot of our elementary kids are having multiple recesses to get them outside, get them moving. We have physical education at all our schools. It gets a lot harder at middle and high school to make sure that daily activity is happening because of exactly that, the academic expectations for kids, the pressures they're on. We don't, you know, a graduation requirement, we do not require physical education every year. The kids don't have to take that many credits of PE. So I definitely can't stand here and say every kid's getting PE every day, especially not at the high schools. And it's tricky. It's a tricky balance to try to make it all work for kids. I don't know if you want to add anything.
I might answer it differently, just from the lens of like outside of the school and more like
Right.
with how we work with families and in the community. I think the tutoring piece has been a challenge, and there's been a lot of barriers to that one because of the cost and the availability of tutors in the area. I think when I first started 10 years ago, we had like a massive list of at least 100 tutors that we could call on, and that's literally down to maybe 5. So the availability and just like the access piece has been really hard. And I think for athletics, you know, the factor of like academics is one thing, and it's also like, again, affordability. Like
Right.
for most of our families and our students, like they would want to play in the private clubs, in the private league, and that's still really expensive. And then our schools do a really good job of athletics, but they're limited as well, right? Because of funding and staffing and all the things. And so I
Right.
think there's still a lot of factors in there that make it really hard for students to decide, like, can I do academics well and go after
Yeah.
something that I'm really interested in? So I think it's a little bit of everything.
Okay, I'm just sitting here thinking, all right, I have to come up with a nonprofit that provides tutoring because I think that's really important.
Counselor Smith.
Thank you. I appreciated the exchange you and Councilor Townsley had about safety in general, school safety in general. And my attention was caught that you leaped right to the open campus question. What do you project would be safer about not having open campus? Is it avoiding bullying, or is it some other kinds of dangers?
Great. You know, it's really about managing who's in buildings. Like, do we know everybody in the building? You know, Glenwood Springs High School was built as a very open, airy, there's lots of doors in and out, and it's really hard for us to manage those. And for safe and secure schools, I mean, if you look at some of the newer Front Range schools, they look like prisons. They are fenced. You can't often even figure out how to get in there. That is not how our schools were built. They were built in a different time period. At lunchtime, if you just kind of walk around Glenwood Springs High School, you will see lots of movement. I mean, and the staff we've got teachers out on either sides of the building monitoring kids in and out. Our kids here tend to be very polite. If they're standing by a door and they see someone outside who smiles at them, they're going to open that door. And we train them and we try to explain to them, don't do that. But it's very hard when we do have these open campuses and kids are accustomed to moving in and out, running out to their vehicle to grab something, coming back. It would need to be a real change in culture. What we would need to do is really shut down all traffic to those double doors that are consistently monitored. And each of our high school campuses has different challenges when it comes to that. I mean, our safety and security systems, we can we can lock all the doors, we can do all that. We have cameras, we have all those sorts of things. It's really around staffing and culture, but the risk to get back to your question, the risk is really about who's in the building and who's
Okay.
here and should they be here? And do we have eyes on everybody in the building?
Thank you. That's very helpful. It's a little different from what prompted me to ask the question because as we discussed earlier, watching for opportunities where the city and the school district can team up on things that they're already doing, where they're already part of city services. Coincidentally, earlier this week, the Transportation Commission was talking about safety and hazard locations for bicycles and pedestrians around town. And it actually went beyond the bike share discussion, just kind of everywhere. And one of the topics that got a lot of discussion is the passageway to the city market lunchroom and crossing a very busy state highway twice to get your lunch. That's not what you just highlighted as a safety issue, but I'll just mention that our commission is bringing recommendations here eventually about that among other locations that might be a safer place for kids to go.
Oh, absolutely. Like, yeah, I mean, the research-based vulnerability is about who's in the building, but I also do not love that kids are running across the street, hopping in their cars, trying to get to Starbucks really fast, driving back, all in this very short 30-minute period, or trying to run home and get lunch or get something, that is not ideal for putting more teenagers on the road right in the middle of the day, with a very tight time frame. So I think there's a lot of factors that don't make an open campus ideal. And are a big shift that we need to tackle.
But even if you don't make that shift, or until you do, that may be one little contribution the city can ultimately do, is improving that crossing at 15th and Grand.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. If I see no more questions, we'll ask the public quick. Do you have any comments on this? I see none. I'll bring it back to council, and I think the message is clear. They are looking for funding, which is great. No problem. Entertaining a motion. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
I would like to move that we approve the request of $160,000 to support the mental health facilities in our schools.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to approve, and Councillor Weimer,
Happy to second.
and a happy second. Any discussion on our end? See, none, we'll call for the question. Oh, Councillor Townsley?
Do we need to include in motion that these funds are coming out of the alcohol and tobacco funds?
Oh, that's probably a good idea.
Okay.
Thanks for pointing that out.
I would like to amend my motion that the funds to support this contribution come from our marijuana and tobacco funds.
Excellent.
I will amend my second.
And an amended second. Everybody clear on what we're doing? Great. Any discussion? See none, I'll call for the question.
Maybe a question.
Wasn't quite quick enough.
Okay, well,
Was it a question or a comment?
It's a comment for discussion before we vote.
Don't show the vote yet. Let's turn it off.
That's fine.
Yeah, canceling off, and we'll go Councillor Small.
So in light of, from my perspective, in light of the enrollment being down roughly 6% across all of the schools, the city's revenue being down approximately 4 to 6% for 2025, the funding greater than our funding from last year is another one of those number swings that I think is a very big swing. And I would want everybody to recognize that in coming years, the money is not going to be there the way it has in the past. And we all need to be preparing for that right now.
Thank you, Councillor Small, and I'm trying to remember, but I think we said the same thing last year when you asked for funding, that at some point it'll dry up. Just, it might not be here forever, but like Councillor Schachter said in the work session, if we can help, I certainly think we should help. So with that, I'll call the question.
Yes, Councillor Townsley. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski. Yes, Mayor Dame. Yes, Councillor Weimer. No, Councillor Schmal. Yes, Councillor Smith. Yes, Councillor Schachter. It passes 6-1.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you so much for being here, and any update is a welcome update. So please come back. Yeah. Excellent. Moving on. Item 8 tonight, Canyon Vista financial contribution.
Good evening, Council. Watkins Folk Gray, Senior Planner. Thank you all for your time and attention tonight. Canyon Vista, as you all know, is an 80-unit affordable housing project that's in between Highway 6 and Donegan Road. This is a funding request, so I don't have a lot to say to you guys, but I want to first describe the funding request and then get into some of the other commitments that we have, and then kind of talk about the fund balance, because this is from our workforce housing fund. We do also have the representative from the developers. They're here, and so they will of course talk about this funding request in their own words. But to try to put it simply, this funding request there's two parts to it. The first is pretty straightforward. The first part is that it's a $785,000 ask. And if you remember from September 4th, when this was also discussed, that's the same $785,000. At that time, you guys instructed him to look for other sources of funding and then perhaps come back. So he's come back. Now, the second part that's a little more complicated is that on September 4th, you council agreed to backfill the fees, the permit fees and the system improvement fees from the Workforce Housing Fund, the 2C fund. So the request tonight is to, instead of backfilling the fees that you guys agreed to do, to contribute that money toward the project. And so that takes away the backfilling. Obviously, that leaves a little bit of a hole for the where the fees would go. So that's that. That's the ask.
How much is that?
Those fees were $730,000 approximately.
Thank you.
So right now what's committed is 2.3 million. So that's 785,000 times 2. That was agreed in 2024. And then the 730,000 I just mentioned. So with this request for another 785,000, that brings it to about 3.1 million. And I'm assuming that you guys are going to have some interest in at least discussing doing the backfilling of the fees, regardless of how this goes tonight. So this would rise to about 3.8 million if you do honor both of the asks tonight and also backfill the fees. You know, that's a little bit complicated. So I'm happy to go back over these numbers if we need to. So if it ends up being a $3.8 million contribution from the city, the contribution per unit, because that's a useful way to compare these kinds of projects, would be about $29,000 a unit. Nope, excuse me, that's the current at the current level. So at 3.8 million, that's about $48,000 a unit. Apologize.
How did you figure that out by year? Sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah, that's 3.8 million divided by 80 units. So that's 48,000 per unit. And I can give you some comparisons too for some recent projects too. At the Benedict 34 unit senior affordable housing project, we did waive the fees for that one. And so that was a subsidy from the city of 10,600 per unit. The mobile home park here in town that we committed $1.5 million to this year, that's 40 units. And so that's about $37,000 per unit over there.
okay, thank you.
So do we have the money for it? I think you're asking, or going to be asking. We do, but if it all had to be drawn from 2026, then we don't. So we would be talking about spreading this over 2026 and 2027. So in 2027, without this current request, if you denied all of these requests, we'd be looking at a balance of about 2.1 million. If you honor the request and backfilled the fees exactly as has been requested, we'd be looking at a balance in 2027 of about 638,000 in the workforce housing fund. That's a lot of numbers. I'm happy to repeat them back and discuss them as we need.
Please repeat back the 26 number left over in the account for 26, or in the fund, sorry.
Yeah, and I don't think I told you 26. So
Oh, I didn't think so. Yeah,
in
okay.
2026, we will have projected about 829,000 left over.
And 27, one more time?
27, if you do not do any of these requests tonight, that'd be 2.1 million left over.
And if we do all the requests?
638,000.
638. Okay, great. Thank you, Watkins. Mayor Pro Tem Zielinski,
I
first
just
question.
Yeah, one more clarifying question. The request today, is that waiving the fees and contributing that? Is that or is it, I just need clarification on that. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking.
Yes, absolutely. So yes, waiving the fees, and instead of taking that money that would backfill the fees, contributing that toward
As well.
toward the project as well.
So in actuality, it's more than the 3.8 because it's the backfill plus the fees, or is there an additional ask?
3.8 would be total. If you
Gotcha.
backfill the fees.
That's what I didn't understand totally. Thank you.
Thank you. Since we're at it, questions, we'll go to Councilor Townsley.
Just, before we even get into other main questions, there was a piece, the budget was on here, but we're referring back to the 2C budget as of July 1st. Last time he was here, we'd gotten a kind of an updated budget. It was like September or something. And I've got those numbers here, but then some of the numbers you're giving us, is there a third one that's more accurate than September as far as what's in that we could get a hold of at some point?
Yes. Would you
Maybe
like to
throw
look
up
at it
on
on the screen?
or something? Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep. Let me share the screen here. This is going to be accurate as of October 31st. I can make it a little bit bigger than that.
And if you could just forward that to us for our records at some point, that would be great.
Sure. Yep. So these numbers are two of the ones you want to be looking at. These are the projected funds at the end of the year. So 2026 here and then 27 here. This would be with all the contributions that have been decided upon, but not doing any of the ones that are requested tonight.
Could you pull that down for a view of all the programs and funding levels projected?
I think you've got it all here. These are the programs.
I'm sorry, the 2.1 million for 27 includes the 2.3 million contribution, the previous ask?
Yes, sir.
And that's the balance we'd have if we don't fund the other oh God, whatever it is, 1.7.
That's right.
Okay. Counselor Schmal. Oh, were you done? Were you
Yeah.
done?
I'm done for now. I've got more.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not understanding the numbers. I had it in my head that had we committed to the full ask at the last meeting, that would have about left us at a zero balance or a very small balance for 2026. And that's not what I'm seeing here.
Right. You're seeing 829,000, so it's not a small balance. And that 2026 number won't be impacted by, well, depending how you structure this, but if you were to honor all the requests that are being made tonight and took it out of 27's budget, 2026 wouldn't change. So we would still have, an amount that's healthy enough to survive if the forecasts aren't met for the fund balances and to still honor all our commitments that we have.
Counselor Townsley, you want to go? Oh, I just turned you off, so I do it again, please.
So the 785 there in 26.
1 second.
We got it. There you go.
The 785 is what we had previously voted on. The 730 is the backfill
That was also
that
previously
was
approved.
also previously done. But now when we go over to 2027, we're still looking at another 1.5, basically, two 700 pieces there. One would be the additional ask of getting that money. And then we're also filling the back, we're still filling the backfill of everything else that was there. So that's where you drop down to the 600,000.
And that's what you're seeing now. Yes, sir.
Good. Right. Ah, there they are. Thanks.
You good for now?
Good.
Okay, excellent. Counselor Schachter.
So I also have a question, down payment assistance. What will happen with that funding? It's not a line item. And also I've heard that there's a concern from 2C about a reserve or anticipation of future mobile home park assistance, what isn't in there. So what is likely to happen to that 638,000 if those items are entered in, and to what amounts? Why aren't they?
So for the first part, down payment assistance, we have a grant for that. So the city fronts the money. We have to pay our own money at first, but then we get reimbursed by the state. So that's why it shows zero for all of these.
And when does that term? Does that end at some point?
It does end in 2026.
And how much have we been using at this point?
We have used everything that they'll give us for this year. And so we have another tranche of money coming next year.
For what amount each year?
It is for $360,000 total. So 180,000 per year.
So has 2C made a decision that they don't want to continue that anymore with their own funds?
The decision is,
Workforce, yes.
the decision has not been made yet on that.
Okay, so that's still up in the air. And like I say, there's no mobile home park reserve. So I have concerns about the Workforce Housing Commission lining out what their goals are for the next 3 to 5 years without those items in there and the reserves. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Smith.
Thank you. I have some what might be called substantive questions for a little later, but I have another question kind of about the procedure here. Why is this new request being characterized as moving the already approved fee backfill to a grant and then apparently still backfilling the fees somehow? Why aren't we just staying with that already approved action for the fees and simply asking for another grant? What's the significance of this particular sequence?
That's a great question to ask the developer when he comes up here. But the reason the reason has to do with the kind of the tax financing on the back end. It allows them to count if it's a contribution, if they pay the fees and then we pay them the money, there's a way that they can account for that that allows them more of a tax credit basis.
Oh, there was an answer. Well, thank you.
But you're up next,
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So I apologize if I'm just being particularly dense. So you said if they pay the pay the fees, and then, so are we waiving fees?
We are waiving fees.
Currently, we agreed to waive fees and then backfill it, but now we're talking, so there would be no fee waiving?
We would essentially be waiving the fees. If you want the full story, they would actually pay the fees and then we would pay them back for those fees. And then this would be an additional $730,000 contribution.
It's a tax thing, I assume.
In addition to paying them back for the fees? I think I'm struggling. I'm sorry.
And understandably so, yeah.
Okay, so I think I understand. So they're gonna pay the fees, but we're gonna pay them back for the fees and we're gonna give them additional money.
Yes.
Okay.
So the simplest way to think about it from the city's perspective is that we are waiving the fees and also giving them that amount of fees as a contribution toward the project.
But yet we backfill the fee once.
And so that's a question that you all will.
Yep, I'll ask. Yep, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, any other questions? No, we'll see none. Thank you. Watkins, would the applicant care to come forward? Please state your name for the record.
Hi, Mayor Dowman, council members. My name is Kyle. I work for Cohen Esri, the developer of the project. So I'll just say that we did expect that the council would quickly recognize this complexity and that we wouldn't be able to. So I have the same presentation that we have given in the past. With some notes just to show what has happened since September. If I could move through, do you guys have that? Was it here?
I just got the one you sent me a second ago, so it'll be.
That's a separate document that if just getting through some of the update, we can look at briefly to describe some of the tax treatment of how those funds go. We don't, only if it's useful, but I did send it so it would be as reference. Did you want to show this one? Yeah, I can go. Got it. So the council has given us a lot of time, so we will try and be as fast as possible. I think the reason to go through an update is just because we were told to go to work and to find other sources of funds. And we have done that. And the project, as projects do, has evolved and there've been additional costs which have been incurred and different requirements from the other financing partners that have increased the cost of the project. And it's also to say, all the project assumptions remain the same in terms of the program for the site, which is a priority for us to maintain it. We have all the same partners, many of whom are local. We have the same service delivery group with the West Mountain Regional Health Alliance, who we've consummated an agreement for services with. So the project did begin as 131 units. It had this third tier, and with parking underneath these two that building at the north. It wasn't a fit in terms of what worked for that area from the city's perspective. But at that point, we didn't have city money or greenhouse gas reduction fund money. So it was redesigned to be this net zero emissions project to qualify for these greenhouse gas funds. And also for the city's Prop 2C money, that is the 1.57 million. that was formally committed in June of 2024. And so those funds are still showing up in this budget, the city's budget. So the 80 units was less dense, but then this is chronology, the greenhouse gas reduction funds were canceled by the current administration. So the project then went to raise funds to replace those funds. And so I've just added these updates. These pages are unchanged except for the red text. So we are holding currently the 1.5 million from Colorado Health Foundation. Our solar tax basis has been confirmed at each time we've revised it to incrementally increase what funding is available through solar tax credits. Garfield County, that tax exemption was approved. The city fee waivers were granted by council, or to back this city fee waivers actually became a backfill through Prop 2C, which is granted by council in September. The $785,000 from 2027 is the subject of today's conversation. We have a total of $841,000 of the solar tax credits, same as we were presenting in September. Our fellow home loan bank application for 1.5 million is still pending. We haven't, the updates haven't been promising in terms of our likelihood to receive those funds, but we will get receive a determination within probably the next 6 weeks. Our Colorado DOH fund application for 1.6 million actually was funded at 3.5 million. So that was a significant improvement in the sources available to the project. And there's a story to how that came to be. The 25 vouchers that we were aiming to have through Garfield County ended up being 20. So we had a target of about 1.6 million of additional debt that the project could support with 25 vouchers, and we achieved about 1.1 million of that. We had Aspen Core, this just says clear. Aspen Core is the foundation that provides energy related grants to housing and single family homeowners, a lot of different types of applicants. So we projected 250, we got 100. They just confirmed that this past week. So this December today it is $3.1 million total, which is a lot. And the process, I've been watching, the process for this 730,000 is kind of confusing. It has to do with the tax credit rules, and that if we pay the city fees, it qualifies as basis. And I don't want to get too into the mechanics of it. It's part of the accounting in the tax credit world that basis is king. You know, we try and be competitive for the most tax credits that a project can receive as a deeply affordable project. And then the other pieces for today is this the 2027 funding request of the 285,000 or 785,000. We have recently made an additional application to Chaffetz concessionary debt program. I think the amount of that award will depend on a lot of things. So I'll keep going here. And so this summary is a very busy document, but it shows, I'm highlighting what the Prop 2C funding projected is. The reason we're here today is because we can close. We're now within range of closing within 60 days based on some of these changes that have happened in our pursuit of other funding. So the total contribution of the city is 3.1 million approximately that we're requesting today. The 3.8 million is because there's a reinvestment of the proceeds that are generated by our paying the fees after we receive the Prop 2C money. But I'd have to push any conversation of that to the end and just focus on it. It is a $3.1 million funding, which is a large amount to ask. Why is additional funding needed? I just wanted to call out that our hard costs since we last spoke have increased $3.5 million. We're still working towards improving that number. Some of it's attributable to Davis-Bacon, some the final environmental reports that came back, in terms of what our obligations are with regards to asbestos and soils. There are certain contaminants in the soil that require more robust practices about how we export it. And then the retaining walls and site utilities, we just really drilled down on a lot of the subject matter and have a number now that works to build. But the costs have gone up. The biggest leap was the Davis-Bacon. That represents 70% of this increase. And then soft costs have increased. We've had to increase our interest reserve just to address risk, and some certain financing fees. Other adjustments, just to call them out, is our senior debt did reduce in terms of how much senior debt we could support. Our state 4% tax credits, they increased based on the total cost of the project. So those increased 1.8 million. The deferred developer fee was another source of 1.35 million, which the project-based vouchers weren't a major improvement to the budget, but they are a major improvement to the long-term health of the project. To have 20 vouchered units at those rents are going to create a much more sustainable project. The city loan incentives that were agreed to apply to any of the city's funds that would be committed. And, then our rents, we're building a project that has an average of 900 square feet per unit. There are 55 of the apartments are 2 and 3 bedrooms, with another 20 of the apartments are 1 bedrooms that are 700 square feet. Those are generously sized apartments versus the Benedict, which is like all 500 square feet apartments. So our price per square foot versus the Benedict, and I am not adversarial with the Benedict at all, we're in the same side of this, right? But we have a fairly cost-efficient project if you look at that we are housing families to the vast majority of these units. The 1 bedrooms are large enough to house a family, and of course, the number of 2 and 3 bedrooms. And the average rent paid by the families across all these, the weighted averages, the $1,300. So again, the Meadows we have the same amenity package as the Meadows. We don't have a pool, so that without the pool, but we have elevators and they have no elevators. So rents there for a 2-bed are $3,200. Ours range from $950 to $1,900. So, and I just say again, we're trying to build a high quality product. We don't strip it for parts and get down to where, it's just hallway into your room. We want the amenities to be inviting. We want to create a sense of culture and desire for families to stay. So these are apartments with the very similar affordability levels that we've completed just in the past 18 months. This is a community room. This is community room here, playground. These are our fitness rooms. Our launch pad is, those are studios, but it's for formerly homeless youth. This is what we built. We did get an award recently for the launch pad. And so, right, so we can answer any other questions in terms of why we're here and what we're trying to accomplish. Feels like a sales pitch, and that's what it is. We're trying to close this deal. We think we can do it in 60 days with these dollars. We're welcome, if the funds come with requirements in order for them to be released, we're welcome any optionality with the city to bring what would be a massive investment by the city.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilor Townsley.
Numerous questions here for you. So, you say your ask today is for 3.1. I think it's an ask of 3.8 because we don't want to leave our backfill unfilled. So I think we should work with the 3.8 figure. Last time you were here, Councilor Small asked you if we gave you the money, how certain were you that you could move forward? And I think you said it was like 80 to 85% in looking at that. And so now you're back wanting not only that money, but another 750,000 on top of that. And now you're really certain that you can get it to the finish line. And I would just, why should we believe you now? Would be my question there.
Yep. So, yep, we, in September, there was a lot of things that were different about the project in September. And had we received the funding we needed at that time, before we had to go out for the additional vouchers, et cetera, timing is such a major factor with these projects. Because time changes things and usually not for the better. So yeah, I think at that time, so if we were, so the backfilling of fees, we approach, I think at the time, we thought of the fees as being, the project as being eligible for a fee waiver based on its deeply affordable and the municipal code. So some of what we had discussed leading up to it was, okay, well, these fees, project might be eligible for the fee waivers. But really the fees benefit the project because we do get tax credits for paying those fees. So the thought of the fees being backfilled and paid through the 2C fund was beneficial and great. It was a significant improvement for the budget, because we're getting roughly $620,000 of tax credits for routing the 2C funds through the project to pay the fees. Because
I guess I'm more worried about what our costs were versus what you say you're doing for tax. I mean, the bottom line to us is what it's going to cost us.
Yep.
So no matter how you move the shells around, that doesn't really, at least for me, it doesn't affect my deciding on there. I'm just curious as to, you know.
Why should we be believed?
Yeah.
Well, we have postponed this meeting, this request to be here on a couple occasions because we knew we couldn't close within 60 days. We see more than one path to doing that in 60 days today. We see multiple paths. It requires, beyond the city's contribution, we're talking with the different stakeholders, folks that are a part of this project. And I don't want to get into too much detail because everyone looks at this project, folks that are the city and all the other folks that are being asked to participate in various roles are looking at it and saying, what do you really need, right? What do you really need to close this? There's a lot of folks that want to see it close, and they have a stake in it, right? They have a return associated with their participation. I'm being very vague here, but I'm trying to be careful about our conversations with those folks. But what I'm trying to say is we don't have this narrow, hoop that we can, if everything goes right, we'll close. We see several different things lining up to close within 60 days of if the city were to make this award, because the city is a major player in making that type of contribution. It's unprecedented, right? It's a tough place to build. We're building a type of project that, it's a tough type of project to build and especially in this location. So why should we be believed today? Because we're not here for any other reason than we see multiple ways to close within 60 days. And we have an investor and debt partner who's really waiting to see the outcome of they're waiting to see the outcome of this and one other. That $3.5 million has to be approved by the State Housing Board on Tuesday. I can only say so much about that, but we think there's a very good chance that will be finalized. Odds are very good that it will be. And so if things start to go right, or if things don't, not everything has to go right for us to close in 60 days. But with this commitment from the city, I think you're talking about, it's a huge difference maker. All the other players that I'm talking about potentially contributing to making this happen, they don't have the weight the city has in terms of increasing the likelihood that it closes with this type of commitment.
So I guess a question on that too is referring to getting it closed versus getting it built. And so we closed something. I think we closed something over at the confluence here not long ago, and then they came back to us for more money and said, okay, and this has nothing to do with you, but the council's left in the position of, okay, we approved something, we got it started, and now we're on the hook for more money because you can't finish it. And again, I think you were asked last time you were here, have you, dealt with the builders in the mountains, the extra cost and everything like that? You assured us that you were, and you had, and you'd taken those things into consideration. And now you're back going, the cost came in higher, our builders are giving us higher numbers. So getting you closed is certainly one goal. You know, I love the project. I think it's a great project, but when we get it closed, then can you get it built without coming back to us for more money? And that I'm very, very uncertain of right now from what I've heard so far. And I do have a couple other questions that there may be for staff. The money that we committed in 2014, are we at a Tabor issue now once we go into 2026 with that?
You mean 2024?
24.
Right. I don't think we're at a Tabor issue. And Councilor Townsley, the way you described it, I think is exactly right. We agreed to, let's just kind of round off in round numbers. $750,000 in 24, $750,000 in 25. We're in for that, and we've done that. The ask was then another $750-ish thousand plus a waiver of fees of $750,000. So that's where we get to the $3.1 million that he's talking about. No Tabor problem so far.
But waiving those fees, we still want those fees paid. We don't want all that out of there. So you're still at 3.8.
Absolutely, which is how you get to your 3.8. And I don't think that we should not backfill the fees.
Exactly.
The Tabor issue comes in when we decide that we can't afford all of this in 2026. Therefore, we want to push some of this contribution into 2027. Well, at that point, we do have a Tabor issue in that you guys cannot agree to take a debt in a fiscal year further than the one ahead of us now. So in theory, a council, whether it's you guys or somebody else, could turn around in 2026, a year from now, and unwind the balance of the contribution that we were going to make in 2027.
And then the last question, then I'll turn it up because I'm sure everybody else has questions too. When I went back and re-listened to the meeting from last time and reread your previous proposals, I'm not sure if I got this wrong, but at the end of 15 years, does this project get turned over to Garfield County Housing Authority?
Yes.
And how much money is Garfield County, other than waiving $870,000 of use tax, how much more are they putting into the project?
So they're putting in 20 project-based vouchers. The annual revenue, I can get you the annual revenue number for that fairly quickly.
I guess
Yeah.
our question is, if we're putting in a massive amount of money here, at least for our city budget, and then 15 years from now, we give the project to the Garfield County, I don't know, that maybe there's some accounting and some other things there that we need to look at, or maybe I'm missing something. So I would bring that up for council to look at. And
All right.
if there's answers to that, please. A lot of this is newer to me.
Thank you.
Fair question. Yep.
Counselor Small.
So I understand roughly the idea behind not waiving fees for accounting purposes. I guess, Steve, are there some accounting ramifications for us? Whether that's a fee in lieu or whether it's actually a donation or how we spend the money? Is there some taxing consideration for us?
Not really. The way that the money flows through would give them an advantage to get additional tax credits. It wouldn't affect us other than making our finance director's job a little bit more difficult because she got more journal entries to deal with.
Yeah, but not tax entry journals, or journal entries. So that is $60,000. Did I hear it right? $60,000 or $600,000 worth of credits, almost the value of what we're getting. They get to tax advantage of that, which is, if you stand back and think about tax credits and tax money that's going into this thing, if I were a tax accountant, my head would explode.
But I want to try to figure out how to do this because it's a wonderful
Well, yeah,
money maker.
especially since most of it's not real money anyway. I share your concern, Dave, about confidence. I'd like you to explain to me how all of a sudden Davis-Bacon became a big cost issue. Because in my experience, you can't hire anybody in this town for Davis-Bacon wage. They're going to be more expensive than Davis-Bacon.
That's correct.
So, but you listed Davis-Bacon as a big cost impact. So is it the administrative cost of Davis-Bacon? Because I can't, if it's the actual wage base, then you had a bad estimate to begin with.
Those are fair points. So just to answer your first question, so I have personally been involved, all the projects that I put on the screen, I've been involved with them since it was dirt and we said, how are we going to build? What are we going to build? And I've seen them through that entire process. So when I tell you I'm confident we can build this at quality, at the number we're proposing, wouldn't be saying that unless I had very high confidence that would happen. That's still not to say others couldn't differ and take a different view of what the risks are. But we're fairly experienced and have been doing this a good amount of time. But the Davis-Bacon, it's a fair point. When we looked at the Davis-Bacon premium, I think that's something we're still digging into with the contractor. This is a recorded meeting, and so I wouldn't want to express how we think about these goings on with the contractor in too blunt of terms, but you can imagine, right? And there is a premium. There are contractors who can handle the Davis-Bacon administrative reporting piece. And if they can't, you don't want them on the job. And so you might have a framer that's building it out as piecemeal. They're just got guys, almost like labor-ready guys that you can pay based on the number of pieces they pull off the stack and install during framing. Well, that type of framer is not going to be a Davis-Bacon type. They're going to have to direct employ these folks. They have to know about them. There's information in terms of Section 3 compliance that we have to meet. And so you're not necessarily replacing everyone that's involved with the project, but you're taking a harder look at how'd you price it? Who do you have? What staff hours do you have allocated to it? Or can you do it, right? Because we have projects where you get to the end or mid-project, and you're twisting arms saying, we need your Davis-Bacon reporting. HUD's, up our nose about it. They're going to withhold sometimes we have HUD federal money that's withheld if we don't stay current with that reporting. So it's a complicated world, to wrangle all this information and be presenting it on a timely basis, then have it all at the end of the project tied up so you can move forward and close out the project. So that's a big part of it, is just making sure you're confident that the subs who you had priced into that original bid can deliver Davis-Bacon reporting. Because when we first sent the bid out, Davis-Bacon we put all the Davis-Bacon in there. We said, but we realized that we realized we weren't going to have to do it. And so it was in part of the conversation from the very beginning. It didn't surprise anyone, but I will say we might have done better to not have to bring it back in, because they priced it all without Davis-Bacon. Then they had to go back to those subs and start reshuffling the deck in terms of who's a part of the project. So I'm admitting that was an inefficient process, but it came about due to the timing of CDOH first not quite being able to fund our request. And so then we had to go for the vouchers. That brought Davis-Bacon in, and then CDOH did fund our request in the end. So that could have worked out. Timing that could have worked out better. Chronology. I don't know tell me if I'm not answering the question. I am doing my best.
So I maybe missed part of the project-based vouchers. That's a commitment by some other agency to pay rent on a certain number of these units?
Yes. And I didn't mean to gloss that over, but that's why we have to do the Davis-Bacon, is because if you have only 8 vouchers, you can have up to 8 vouchers, and that doesn't trigger the Davis-Bacon requirement. Once you have 9 or more, you have to do Davis-Bacon wage reporting. And it's just the way the federal government says, if we're supporting the project with our resources, we want this additional layer of compliance to make sure that, because there are markets where people get taken advantage of. The government wants to be putting their money into projects that's supporting, equity for people, or working class people. And so it's just a rule, and we tripped it by increasing the vouchers on this project.
Okay, and then I guess one other clarification from my perspective. As I understand, the proposal still has only 20 of the 80 units that are Glenwood resident preferred, but we can't really say that. We're trying to somehow prioritize Glenwood employees, Glenwood people who work in Glenwood Springs, but going roundabout to do that?
That's right, 20 units. And the reason that we have to do that in a kind of roundabout way and can't just say they shall work and live in Glenwood is that we would run afoul of the Fair Housing Act when we do that. And so we have to try to be more creative and find, things like priority lists and preferences to try to not run afoul of federal law.
Okay, I do have it right then. And in that case, our investment per unit should be by 20, not by 80, which makes it $190,000 per unit that we're investing in this, other than whatever the affordability is of the rest of the 60 units. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Smith.
Thank you. I have a collection of questions and they might sound a little jumbled, but I'll try to make them make sense. Some of them will, I think, end up being directed at least in part to staff if and when that's appropriate. But Kyle, your presentation, I have a handful. I'm terribly impressed with the complexity of this project and your diligence in sorting it all out. And you going to that level of work for a good purpose, good public purpose, as different from just for investor profit. So that gets my attention, and thank you for being so diligent. Because you've been digging into these details, I think you probably have answers to some of these questions. This is one that I'll try for you, but may end up going back to staff. At a time before I came to serve here, there were some preliminary approvals for funding for the project. And there was, as you just mentioned in your summary tonight, there was an original design that had more units in it. 131 was originally proposed. Is dropping that from 131 to 80 a part of the problem here?
Yes.
So if you had more units, you could get more tenants paying even artificially low rents that would help you make the numbers work?
Well, I appreciate you mentioning it. The reason we bring it up, it's not a problem, but it is part of how the project was structured with less reliance on public funding support in its original iteration. It was changed to meet some of the priorities, both of Chaffa and the city. And so that has created some of the dynamics that we're trying to solve for now.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned in a handful of instances, some tax benefits, solar credits, some others, tax exemptions. That was from the county, but any of these that are federal, solar tax credits for one.
Correct.
The accounting benefit you have from this fee waiver versus just a grant. Are those federal benefits stable? Tax law changed again not long ago in Congress. The net zero grants just disappeared. Are the ones that you're still working with going to be there?
Yeah, this administration has shown you'd have to acknowledge that there is some unpredictability with how policy has worked, in the past year. But it's that LIHTC allocation to states was increased. The rules around the 4% bond allocation were relaxed to allow more projects to qualify for funding through the private activity bond. So through the big, beautiful bill, the administration did show an interest in expanding the tax credit marketplace.
Thank you.
Some of the energy, this organization is not as supportive of energy related grants and incentives as offered through the federal government in the past. So the 45L credit has been canceled in the last 6 months. And so that had been a part of our funding. And then solar tax credit is going to phase out more quickly than it had been slated to. So it creates some urgency with this particular program of the project to close sooner than later. We have to spend a certain percentage, and I'm not going to guess it. I know what it is. I just don't want to say the wrong number. We have to expense a certain amount of our solar budget before June 30th of 26 in order to retain our access to those credits, which are a significant portion of our budget. So we also don't want to risk. We want the project to be able to deliver a fixed utility, meaning a master meter setup, so that because tenants get pushed out of apartments for a lot of, it doesn't take much to destabilize a low income family. You know, a couple months of something not going quite right, healthcare, any, you name it, and utilities can be part of that. If they have kids at home that are leaving the windows open and they run up, you know, $500 utility bill for a few months in a row, that could be enough to set them onto a path where they lose housing.
Sure.
So we want to be able to deliver this. And I don't want to make it sound like too good of people, right? If this is all we did, right? If you go to any developer, this is what they should be and probably are doing. So this is the space we reflect back these priorities because that's what makes us competitive to build this type of housing. So it's not just that we're a bunch of great people, right? We enjoy the competition element of trying to do something that's not simple. And of course we feel good about it, right? So I do think that this current financing stack reflects what we understand to be reliable sources in the window of time we expect the project to close. We haven't speculated with any,
Thank you. To one more time clarify the 3.8 versus $3.1 million total bill. From your perspective, the 3.1 is what allows you to close in 60 days. Is that correct? What we do about backfilling our fees is more our concern than yours.
Yeah, and I mean, you'd have to tell us what the impact is to the city. We can't say that.
But for the impact of your budget, you need $3.1 million.
We're thinking of it that way.
Okay, great.
And we can represent how how it flows, but you're still, I think it's a fair point that Councilman Townsley makes to you. That if the city's budget relies on those dollars, yeah, that's part of the decision, right?
Thank you. Building on Councilor Schmall's insightful question about Glenwood worker preferred units and the complications there. Aside from the requirements or the limitations of fair housing laws and such, from your experience in projects like this, or from whatever other insight you may have, how many of these 80 are going to end up being local workers?
Well,
whether they were set aside or not.
Yeah, I think Councilman Schmall makes a fair point. What I want to say is driving around, understanding these mobile home and other types of non-traditional housing that exist in significant quantities right around this site. It would be obviously an improvement for a lot of those folks to move into one of these apartments. I don't want to say that's true of all of them, and some of them seem to own their homes, and so I don't understand that market, that submarket that well. But what we do often see is folks moving from a local, lower quality housing situation into our new buildings, and they're really excited to do it. And because it's the same school district, same transportation setup for the kids getting to and from, it's a good fit. And I think they're some of the most grateful residents we have, because they're like, oh God, this is so great. It's just, I get to move half a block away and have this living situation and have real permanence in it at the same time. So you know, all the same friend group and everything. So we do see that. It's a big part of the conversations we have during lease up is, and sometimes it's I'm probably saying too much here, but sometimes it's an apartment building with not a great landlord, which I'm not seeing a lot of that type of product nearby. So again, I couldn't say if folks in these current living situations nearby would consider this an improvement. But I will say almost every project, we see a significant number of our applicants who are living in a nearby apartment building where the landlord is just not taking care of things. We're more than
I don't think you're talking too much. I think these qualitative considerations are really important. The human experience involved is a key part of this. So thank you for
those are some of the most grateful residents.
adding that.
Vocally grateful. Yeah.
I'm also wanting to do a little bit of the mechanical side, building on Councilor Schmall's question. Maybe this is just not possible to answer, but under our 20 units preferred for local workers, we're kind of counting on getting 20 units for local workers. Are we likely to get more just because of practicality of things? Is your experience
The
tell
best
you?
I can do is tell you stories about what we see. I don't want to make presumptions about how it will work for a specific project.
Okay, fine, that's fair enough. I knew it was a long shot question, but thank you. My others, I think you might have answers for, but I certainly think staff would have answers for. Is it okay to ask staff questions too?
Absolutely. Question time.
If the council were to go with this plan, the 3.8 million plan for shorthand, is it necessarily so that the backfill fees would come from 2C money, or might it come from somewhere else?
In theory, you could probably backfill those fees from the general fund.
Which doesn't really help the city one way or the other. It addresses, it feels like it addresses the concerns that Councilor Schachter highlighted earlier, that we've got other programs in the workforce housing world that might get crimped if we take too much money out of that fund.
That is true. We also have ongoing operational needs in our general fund that we
Exactly.
can't have crimped.
Thank you. This is another that requires I think maybe a combination of conjecture and a combination of just straightforward zoning data. Can we anticipate what might happen on this site if this project does not succeed?
Factually speaking, no. What the zoning is M1, so there's no minimum lot size. You could build theoretically as many units as you want, except that's tempered by the requirement that you have to provide parking and provide landscaping and provide common open space and all those sorts of things. So, you know, if you're wondering if another project could be built that's more dense, maybe. It would be difficult though. This project already involves quite a lot of engineering in creating some walls to make sure that there's room for everything there. So it's over 3 acres, the site, but it's kind of the right size for a multifamily project that makes use of all the space, I would say.
So under M1, it wouldn't even necessarily be housing.
That's right. It could have a slew of non-residential uses as well.
Okay, thank you. Just before I came to service here, I sat in on a meeting, I think I've got the timing right, where this whole notion of having some of this city contribution come in the form of a loan instead of these various grants or fee waivers was put aside because of internal accounting difficulties. Do I remember that right?
Yeah, I mean, it does complicate our financial statement a little bit.
Is it impossible?
No, it's not impossible.
Thank you. That's all I can think of for now.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Zelensky.
All right, so if all things go as intended, and when do you anticipate the beginning the project and finishing the project?
So it's been day by day talking with, they've been waiting to see what the outcome of this meeting is, and on Tuesday. So it would be easier to give an answer a week from today.
Just best guess, just
Yeah.
shoot from the hip.
But we also have the seller who may be watching this and saying, when are they telling me they're gonna, and so we do have a lot of timing. It's not funny, but it is funny that everyone's looking at this being like, when is this going to happen? Because folks have a lot at stake. Even the debt and equity folks who do this as a big institution, right? They are supposed to put money to work, right? And they have CRA, they have like things that their organization needs to, milestones they have to achieve each year. So a lot of folks there's a lot of pressure on this current situation to make good on a timing commitment that we would be making within the next week or two, and to make good on it. And if I'm saying a date, I think different people could hear it different ways. So we're saying 60 days because as of today, we're looking at scenarios that are much fewer than 60 days, or a stage closing. There's a lot of options to close in stages where certain monies are committed but you don't close on it. So there's ways to make sure that we meet everyone's timing requirements. And we got some really bright people, and we're all talking through this weekly, or multiple times a week, looking at how to make that happen. So sorry.
No. It's all good. Keep going.
It's probably more than enough said,
Yeah.
You said a lot and it's never enough, right? It's one of those things.
The reason that I ask is, okay, so we're spending basically future money that we haven't earned yet. And so I'm always like a little concerned about that concept. So I was wondering, like, how would this distribution go? Would it be done before 2027? So now we have to borrow money from other funds in the city to pay. That's what I was kind of getting at.
So I don't know that we would have to borrow funds from other parts of the city. It would tie up our 2C funds, I think, entirely through
I got that.
2026. We would expose ourselves a little bit to the risk that our forecasts are not met in our accommodations tax.
Yep. So that was one of my questions.
We've built some, room in for that. And I think that it would be unlikely that we would fall so far that we would have a problem with that, but it's not impossible. In which case we would have to then do a due to, due from loan from probably our general fund to shore that up.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
from the project perspective, completion would be June of 27.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Townsley.
Two things. Let's go back to the 20 units of preferred housing. Nothing has changed from that. As if we're going to look at this on a 12-month basis, we've had 20 units in there. That's going to work against that forgivable loan, however we're calling that. And then you're going to account for that as we go up or down each year. And then we get to the end of the loan. If you've only had 2 people in there from Glenwood, there's going to be a big payback of that loan. If you had 30 people in there, you're going to be free and clear on that. Is that correct? That hasn't changed?
That's
Okay. So if we do that, changing that number to 40 is pretty easy to do. I mean, we make that number 40 instead of 20. Am I missing something there? If that's what everybody decided they wanted to do.
Yes, you could decide that. That would be a more of a commitment and more of a risk for the project.
Right. Okay. So, but it's just an accounting thing. That's not I don't think from our accounting, whether that's numbers 20 or 40, I would think that's pretty easy. I'd be my guess. And this would be a question, you said, well, part of our problems, we've been dealing with unpredictability. We've got the same administration in there now that's been unpredictable over the last few months. Last year, I would assume that unpredictability will continue forward. So this, I guess, is a question for you, Carl. How do we, if we structure this and we get involved with these people, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean, we get involved because we are involved with you. At the point that, you know, we break ground, we close on this, we're involved. So if I was building a house and I wanted it built by a certain date at a certain cost, I would put into my contract with the builder that there's penalties if you don't hit these dates. And I think that's pretty normal in any kind of commercial construction, whatnot. You don't build me what you said you're going to do by when you said you're going to do it, you're going to have penalties, you're going to have fines. I'm going to be compensated for that, and I hold your feet to the fire at the end of that. How can we as a city cover ourselves so that if we come up with the money that's necessary, we close on this? And then again, my worry is not closing on it. I think we could get it closed. My worry is on getting it done at cost. And when they don't get it done at cost for some reason, because again, my confidence level is way less than it was in September at this point. So how do we change it and fix that so that we have some coverage, or there's some place to hold their feet to the fire?
Yeah. You know, some of it is probably conventional things, recorded deed of trust, although we'd be subordinate to the major lenders in a $50 million project, and we have 3.5 million in. You're pretty far down the list, right?
And maybe 15 years from now, we can at least get that money back for a future council.
Right. Yeah. So that would probably be the major, I mean, that's probably the best tool we have. I think getting involved in the actual contracting and kind of penalty provisions puts the project probably more at risk rather than less at risk in terms of completion, just because that will drive additional costs on the contracting side, because they view that as an additional risk that they're probably accounting for. So, I mean, I guess the, you know, we could probably come up with some kind of an acceleration clause if it wasn't completed in a particular time period where that forgivable loan period shortened up or tightened up, something like that. Certainly something I could sit down. I've had a good working relationship with council for this group to try to find a tool there that would work. I'd say the default is a deed of trust, and then outside of that, it's perhaps an acceleration clause in the loan document that we might use that is focused on project completion versus you know, just typical non-payment things, but it's a little bit more tied to like you would on a construction loan.
I think something like that, so that we're not sitting here and having our constituents look at us and go, wait a minute, you just went through this project where, you know, somebody came back to you and couldn't do it and you had nothing done, and now you've just gone and done the exact same thing again. When are you going to learn? To me, would be a valid concern.
Yeah, that question.
Thank you. Council Schacht.
Couple of things. One be a kind of a rehash for Steve, if you don't mind. Assuming if hypothetically there was an approval that included all the fees being paid to the general fund, so we'd be at 3.8-ish. Assuming that, and assuming that the cash flow projections for workforce housing are maybe at current levels or less, do you see any other risk to the city financially or operational wise, other than the Workforce Housing Commission not being able to fund or proceed with the existing programs they have if they by supporting this particular contribution?
No, I mean, I think from the city's financial perspective, what you're saying is right. I do think that Councilor Townsley is bringing up a very good point. There are only so many things that we can do to assure ourselves that we're not going to be, you know, in a situation where we close and we can't get this built, right? I mean, we're talking about making decisions under a very great deal of uncertainty, you know, both in the macroeconomic environment right now and in this particular project. This is a complicated project. It has a lot of moving parts in it, and it would be nice if we had a little more certainty in a lot of those places.
So second related to that, and then I have one more. We've talked about this before. And Carl, and you can the city does not require, to my knowledge, any performance bond or reclamation bonds for large projects that aren't able to be completed. At least I believe that was the answer some years ago. If we were to do that, on the other hand, the costs of the project and probably the reapplication by the applicant would be thrown back to the beginning. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I think you're talking about on a completion bond on the size of a project, it would be a cost that, there probably is some complete, I don't know the total inner workings of the deal. I'm sure that some of the lenders have something in place, or the capital investors would, but, a bond for the benefit of the city is going to be a substantial, cost to add to the project. Probably in the, range of maybe even 10%. So figure another $5 million on the project.
But we don't have anything in place for unfinished projects either at this point. We've
We don't for anything that is private, not, for public improvements, absolutely, but
Right.
not for private improvements, yes.
Third thing, if I may I ask one of the commission members to come and address a question? Mr. Mayor, is that allowed?
I was gonna ask the
Probably.
same thing.
Probably.
All right, if it's probable and it's okay.
Probably.
I would ask
It's
one of you,
probable.
we have Alex and Carolyn here. Could you please step up? I won't put your feet to the fire, just burn you a little bit. Come on up, please.
Yeah. And state your name for the record if you could,
Ed,
please.
the word, I'm gonna have questions for you.
Well. So my question, and I think,
Dowie.
thanks, Carolyn.
Yeah, Carolyn Meadowcroft.
And I probably should have
Thank
looked
you,
the
guys.
minutes closer, and I think Watkins could have answered, but again, I want you to do it here.
You have other board
The-
members
Excuse me,
on the screen.
I just want these two, thank you. The vote to approve this, was it unanimous?
The board had approved the 3.1 million,
Okay, 3.1.
and I think it was unanimous.
And
Yes, it was. There were, the two votes in 2024. That was a unanimous vote. And then the next one was unanimous as well.
the board hasn't taken action on 3.8, is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing you?
That's correct.
All right. And do you recall at the time of the vote, how many commission members were there?
We had a quorum.
Okay. Watkins, can you address what the full capacity number is and how many were there?
I do not know the number
Okay.
that were there.
All right.
I can look in my notes. I have.
That's
them.
all right. My last question, realizing you are not the official representatives of the commission, but in your best opinion, if 3.8 were approved, knowing that there's a great likelihood that your operational ability and funding ability to carry forward the next few years with what you're already in place might be in jeopardy, do you feel like there's still strong support for this project?
I'll give my answer and then Carolyn can give hers. I personally support the project. It's an amazing project. We supported it at 3.1 million. It's a lot more to go to 3.8 million, and it does put at risk some of the other work that the board wants to see happen. The cost per unit goes up with that. Is that too much? What I wish is that we had time for our board to meet and have this conversation. We don't, and I don't know if it sounds like for the project to move ahead, any delays put the project at risk. So I understand that, that's maybe a luxury that we don't have. I guess I had some questions about Kyle's presentation of, I know that there's a lot of additional costs, but I was also seeing some additional revenue that you were getting that was more than.
Let's not start the
Just
conversation
address
between the
this
board.
Yeah.
Concisely, I don't want, this
Okay.
isn't a board meeting. Carolyn, would you concur to some extent?
Yes, I would. I've been involved with affordable housing in different kind of aspects for many years. And this is a project that, yes, maybe there's only a guarantee of 20 units for people in Glenwood Springs, but a total of 80 units that are deeply discounted for such a low AMI don't come around very often. And we may not see this again. The city of Glenwood has a lot of apartments that have been built, and there's some beautiful buildings.
I won't cut you off. I
This
think
is-
you've
yeah.
answered the question. I don't
Great.
want to take up more of your time and ours. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Counselor Smith?
Thank you. And thanks for Councilor Schachter, because our minds seem to be in parallel on that. Seeing that we had at least a portion of our brain trust in the room I wanted to ask very similar questions, either through public comment or the way we did it. So thank you for being willing to do that. And thank you for initiating that. For what it's worth, there was only one member absent from my notes at the last time the board met and commented on this. I was at that meeting and specifically asked the board if they still stood by this with the cost, the contribution continuing to go up and tying up their budgets for 2 or 3 years, and they were still quite firm in their assertion. So as far as I'm concerned, my instructions from that board is to move ahead. The new 730, 740,000 is the twist, because we don't have a comment on that. The board does meet on Tuesday. For what that's worth in terms of calendars and timing, it would be an opportunity to get everybody back together. I do have a couple more questions that on which the board members might have insight, but maybe more to staff. Councilor Townsley asked about increasing the number of local preferred units out of the 80. Earlier, Watkins, you said that there's some sort of limitation on that under fair housing laws. What is that limitation number compared to 20 or 40 or whatever?
Carl, do you want me to take a stab at that?
Sure.
The Fair Housing Act does not allow us to show preference to people based on where they live, and which is what we do with our inclusionary housing. We want things to be resident occupied, people who work in the community. That's the preference. The feds don't see it that way, so they're looking more broadly. So that 20 unit requirement is not a requirement, first of all. So that's a preference. Right. That's how we get around that. And so that's just kind of the best we can do. And if we increase it to 40, that just makes it less likely that they'll meet it for each year, and thus that they'll have to repay that loan.
There isn't a official federal percentage threshold. It's just more you're tempting them to question you.
Yeah, if I may, think about it in terms of the federal government is funding with taxpayer dollars on these credits from all over. So their position and the position of Colorado in administering those funds through CHAPA is that there can't be a hard geographic boundary on who can occupy those facilities. And think about that in terms of, they don't want federal funds being sort of sequestered into particular areas just for a singular community's benefit. It's more of a general policy just because it's a much broader policy organization or the state than we are at the local level. That's all it is. So we work around it, utilizing some preference lists and things like that. But by and large, this is really being driven, compliance with that 20 is really being driven by an acknowledgement that the vast majority of tenants more than likely are going to be Glenwood workers, because that just kind of makes sense, right? It's kind of how it matches up, where at least a member of that household is going to be somebody who works and lives, not only lives, but works in Glenwood.
Thank you. I certainly see how that could otherwise be abused racially, socioeconomically. You could go the wrong direction from the perspective of this conversation. So by increasing the number to 40 or otherwise, we're just trying it out, see if it flies, but we could pick some different number other than 20, if I'm reading all that right. Again, hearkening back to before I knew enough to pay attention to the details, when the project was dropped from 131 to 80, was that a hard decision, or can that be revisited?
That could only be revisited through a new land use application.
So then we're way behind in terms of timing.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, functionally, yeah, we're here.
Thank you, and thank you for board members for being willing to be put on the spot. That that helped me a lot with the questions that we shared. Sorry, and the only thing, again, I would circle back to the council's, for the city council's decision-making. To the degree it might help, there is another board meeting next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Schmal.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up some more administratively with the, I guess I'll make a statement to begin with. I believe this is probably the best project that we can get. It's way more expensive than we expected to begin with. I think everybody finds that out when they come here. Our concern is for not having a catastrophic event where we commit $3.1 million and have it disappear because of changing economics that are changing potentially faster than what anybody's keeping up with. And my suggestion would be that in addition to the deed restrictions and the things like we did with the Mountain Mobile Park that give us at least some insurance, we don't necessarily have to disperse all of the funds at once, do we? Could we come up with a commitment based on a funding schedule? That's a conditional funding schedule?
I mean, I think to some extent we're doing that because we're breaking it into 2 fiscal years, 26 and 27. So to Steve's earlier point regarding budgeted funds that, that second tranche, we have to make subject to annual appropriations, right? We can't commit those funds in a budget year that we're not in, or the next immediate budget year that we're adopting a budget for. So there's going to be a caveat and a level of risk there for these guys regardless, depending on what you do in that follow-up budget. Now, could we formalize that? No, I understand. So I understand your point that I think that what you're suggesting is formalize that as a disbursement schedule that is based much more like a construction loan on hitting targeted 30%, 60%, 90% completion as those distributions are being made. And I think that's probably something that we could do. It's a little more complicated from Steve's team keeping track of it and my team drafting it, but it's certainly something that can probably be done.
Councilor Townsley.
I think what Councilor Small brings up is a really valid point, and I wish there were assurances, but once we close this thing, we're kind of screwed. I mean, we're in it. So, when that happens, at that point, we're really good partners. I just want to make sure we want to dance with them to start off with. When we had some people from the commission came up, they gave the impression that everybody was kind of go on this at all. But as I'm looking at the staff report, it says staff supports this project with the recommendation of the Workforce Housing Board, but has concerns about the substantial appropriation of the fund that will limit our ability to fund other projects and reduce reserves to a point that they may become problematic if we don't have the forecasts are not met. So Watkins, this would be a question for you. Which is it, one way or the other? I mean, are we, let me also ask as a second part to that question, we've got a meeting coming up in 2 weeks. Last time we met September 4th, I thought we were going to meet 2 weeks later. Now it's 3 or 4 months later. You're going to have, so there were some questions that you were asked that you said you'd have an answer to in the next week. Maybe waiting until the next, if we wait 2 weeks, are we putting anything in danger? Because then they maybe be able to answer some more of our questions. The commission would have time to meet and go over that next week. Does that really throw something in a kink that can't be worked through?
We're open to anything that keeps the conversation going. We do have time constraints.
Is 2 weeks kill your time constraints? Because you're saying that you're not even gonna get some of these answers back from other people for the next week or so.
Well, what I want to say is some of the, I'm wanting to respond to some of what you're saying about the risks of putting money into a deal or making a commitment now on a deal that then doesn't keep its schedule and deliver on what it's promising. But the reason we didn't come back 2 weeks after, a month after the September 4th is because we did encounter complications and the timing of, we rely on agencies that are very slow moving and have a lot of policy things that go into their decisions. And so, but where we are today is with the project that we're a group that has done a lot of work. We've been around since the 70s. We've never walked away from a half completed project that I can recall. The guys that ran this business in the 70s are on meetings with us all week long. They're still involved. That's the type of company we are. So I do want to represent that. And so from our perspective, this project gets built, right? If we say we're going to close, we don't have an example to give you of a project we didn't close and build. There's not one that exists. And we've built thousands of units. So I just want to, I understand the concern. I fully, that's rational, right? And so I'm just trying to represent our side and say, we're going to build it. It's going to get completed and it's going to be what we promised because that's just what we've done. And so, because that's the way you get to build it, do it again, is because you deliver on what you say you're going to do. So yes, but we would provide whatever information and we'd be more than happy to talk more about these, the increasing the number of units for the forgivable, because we don't have much of a stake in terms of that grant being forgiven because the property value is going to go up considerably. And when the project will be able to refinance those loans if they still exist in 15 years, because it will have, we did this one graph that showed that you get a huge equity transfer at the year 15 because the tax credit investor has no equity. Their equity is the tax credit, so they go away. So it's like an investor that gives you $15 million and then at year 15 says, all right, thanks, I appreciate being a part of the project, and they walk away. So there's at the refinancing event, if the city decides you want to go to 60 units that are locally occupied by local residents and raise that bar, where I think, I'm trying to remember why we went to 20, and I just don't remember exactly.
No, I think that's very valuable, and I like that, and I like the fact that if we're going to turn the thing over to Garfield County, that if there's less people in there during the time frame, if we wanted 40 and there weren't that many in there, then we're going to get something back on that 15 years from now before we turn over all that equity to Garfield County.
But we should probably set the number now.
So we should set the number now. So I don't think anybody sees a problem with that I can see here.
Well, and I can't speak, Carl, to how it would shape up, but I think we do have public funders that will sometimes say you need to meet this standard before we're going to put the remainder of our money in. It sometimes is it's difficult to enact during construction, but if construction was paused and we were 20% complete going in, it's not going to happen. But if something were to occur, we wouldn't be going back for more draws, right? There'd be a pause, and any lender would do the same thing. They have a banks engineer that's going to be there every week. We have a payment and performance bond that is very expensive, covers the entire cost of the project to bring in a third-party GC to finish it. So there's a lot of layers of protection that the senior lender requires that protect the city ultimately. But discussing how to set metrics for when the project earns out that next, since it's going to be reviewed and by each yearly council, I guess mostly that 27 council. We need the money committed when it comes right down to it. But if the project encountered some issue, there could be controls, right?
And then the first part of my question, Watkins, is where are we at as far as serious reservations on staff's part versus the commission saying we were all for it, or we think we would be all for it?
Well, it's both things. We with that recommendation, we're acknowledging that it's a lot of money. You guys know that this is a lot of money, but at the same time, it's a project that does not come around very often and serves a segment of the population that the free market does not provide for. So it's just one of these difficult decisions, as tonight's testament of.
Good. Well, my question.
Thank you, Dave. Councilor Small.
Yeah, so I'd go back to disbursement because if the money's committed and we have a dispersal criteria and schedule, then I think this is probably about as good as we can get. But I don't know, maybe a previous council, we're a bit sensitive because of a previous council that approved a pretty big grant to a really good idea, and 2 months later they went bankrupt and the money was gone. So I'm a little sensitive to that.
And Councilor Schacht.
Thank you. I'm still pondering what Counselor Townsley said with some reservations about what we tie up now versus 15 years. And part of it, maybe Carl, you can help or somebody, what happens to any deed restrictions or the current tenants in this apartment if and when this is conveyed to Garfield County Housing?
So the long-term commitments of the project to the affordability and the categories continue into the future. I think it's a 40-year project horizon for all of that. The question for us probably is what happens at the end of that 15 years, if that's kind of our window on these kind of loans / grants that we are doing. I believe with the mobile home park, if I remember the paperwork right, and I apologize that I don't have it all straight, that I don't have it on perfect recall here. We actually had those commitments continuing into the future, but the forgiveness was triggered at getting through the first 15 or 20 years at that rate. I would anticipate structuring this very similar to those documents on that front, that commitment or requirement continued into the future, but the forgiveness on the loans accrued at year 15 or 20 or something like that. So from that standpoint, I think we have affordability and Glenwood workforce, for 15 or 20 years as kind of a guarantee as part of that documentation. I do think that, to everybody's point, we can raise that expectation to 40 units or 60 units on average. And at that point, I think I would probably do it on average over the course of the 15 years to determine whether or not there was a lump sum payment due at refi and transfer over to Garfield County Housing.
So partly a question, re-trigger my memory. Right now, we have in place 1.457 million commitment that's forgivable, likely to be forgiven over the course of 20 years with the right occupancy. At this point, 20 of Glenwood workforce residents. If any other deed restrictions we put in will continue after those 15 years, yes or no?
I think the preferences could continue after those 15 years. It's a little bit different because in the mobile home park deal, we obviously just have a recorded deed restriction, a little bit different there. Kind of similar aspirational commitment, I guess. But I think I would think about this in terms of a hard, we know we're going to get it for 15 years. We also were going to have a track record of who is renting in these, right, over that 15-year period. If they hit those targets, we're going to be pretty comfortable that that's going to continue into the future, right, just by the way the system works.
So one thought I had, rather than try and figure out 40 units or not, would it be, and given what Conesprit, is that what their track record is for likely long-term tenants at this price, would another consideration, a consideration only, would be that says, look, at the end of the 15 years, Glenwood Workforce Housing has first priority for any apartment that it becomes vacant. Is that a legal thing that can be done? As openings come up, our workforce has first preference. As opposed to,
yeah, I think potentially that is something that we could work out. I mean, I think that, yeah. Yeah, I would want to sit down and talk through how we were structuring that with council for Conan Esri. But they've been super open to trying to work with us on making that kind of a thing happen. So I'm comfortable that we could probably get there. I would say just kind of my summary of where it sounds like you guys are kind of like everybody's coalescing seemingly around a couple of ideas. One is a draw schedule. I think that works because the funds are committed, and we'll pick a 4 tranche draw schedule, something like that. I think there's been some coalescence around maybe doubling the number of units. The expectation, since we're kind of doubling the amount of money, that feels like kind of where people are at. If you're going to say yes, I don't know. If you were to say yes, feels like those are kind of the major deal points that you want to add back in. Just as a summary of what I'm hearing on this side.
Fair enough. What you heard, I think, Councilor Townsley, you're done, right? Yeah.
Yes. So there is no deed restriction. I mean, these aren't owned places. So I mean, there is no deed restriction. It's going to be there in 15 years, but we could look at the, how we're using AMI to judge rent.
Right.
And that's the sort of thing that you could put in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's what we're using is on that forgivability in those first 15 years is that an expected percentage of Glenwood workforce on an annual reporting or on like I said, maybe an overall over the 15-year to determine whether or not there's a payback at the end of that 15. I guess what I'm suggesting is that while you could probably keep something in there around that moving forward, we don't have an enforcement mechanism necessarily, but we probably are going to have at the end of 15 years a pretty good idea about how the project performs relative to the workforce. So we'll have a pretty good idea, and after that track record, what we can expect into the future, that it's not going to change significantly on the makeup of tenants.
Thank you. If I see no more questions, I have just some yes and no questions for you. I'll keep it simple. Just to clarify a few things. You wouldn't close or you wouldn't buy this property if you couldn't build it, right?
Most likely, no.
That's more than a yes and no question. Open for a yes.
You're supposed to say
Clear
it
yes.
depends, right? It depends.
So it could happen that you buy it and then can't build it.
There's a lot of folks that have a stake in that, and that decision would be above me. Typically, you look at it as the greater whole, right? What is the intent of even owning land? We're not a land speculator,
right?
And we've had beyond that, we don't have that in our mind right now. We have a lot on. Just put that there's enough from the point we are now. It only makes sense for us to think of the original intent of 80 units. Yep.
So, follow-up question to Carl: what happens to our money if they purchase the lot but don't build the project?
Well, that goes to kind of Councilor Schmall's thoughts on tranches on construction, right?
And not purchase.
And not, well, I think there's a commitment at purchase. We're already breaking this into 2 fiscal years, right? So if it's not moving forward, I mean, even without any other kind of an agreement, if it's not moving forward, we're not going to budget or appropriate 2027 funds, right?
But what happens to the first million?
I know, and I was going to say, I'm just like, so that's the big picture, just as the baseline. I think we'd need to work on the exact numbers, but kind of my gut would be is that 25% goes hard at closing. The next tranche is at, X% of completion, 25, 50, and 75% of completion, something like that.
So potentially we could lose 25%.
Yeah. I mean, I think that would be the, and I'd be looking to collect on my note that they had signed. Right. In terms of
But like you said, we're somewhere down the line.
Yeah,
Okay.
we are, but. Well.
Not
you know,
really
we're-
what, not
yeah.
really the yes and no I wanted to hear, but yeah. Okay. No, fine.
Not at that point. At that point, we're not that far down.
Yeah, at that point, we're really not
Okay.
that down because there's going to be a lot of people without like that. I mean, purchase price of the property, keep in mind, as opposed to cost of project are, tens of millions of
Right.
dollars apart. So
Right.
nobody is going to be out that much at
Right.
closing if it doesn't move forward.
Okay, fair enough. Have you had to adjust the AMI even though your cost has increased?
No,
The AMI will stay the same.
correct.
Okay. What was the other one? The most questions were answered since there were 1,000 questions. I think everything was done. If I think of the other one, I'll mention it later, but I think those were the main two that I had. So with that, and I see no more question, I'll thank you, by the way. I open it to the public quick. Anybody here that'd like to speak, please? State your name again for the record.
Alex Dowie. So if I had to vote on this right now, if we were in our board meeting next week, I would vote yes for the full 3.8 million. Because I am concerned about the 2C fund having limited other funds to support other projects, but I think it's really important that the fund is supporting a breadth of different kinds of projects. We don't have anything like this currently, and I don't think it's likely that we would get another opportunity for a project like this. So I would like to see the money go towards something that's important and valuable for our community, even if it prevents some other opportunities that we might have to say no in the next few years.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for your comment. Please state your name for the record.
Carolyn Meadowcroft. One comment that I had is if this entirely falls apart because the funding is not available and it just does not happen, we have that money out there that's been earmarked, that's been sitting there. We're not using that money. We would be needing to wait for another project to come along. Is there something on the horizon? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but we're not using the money now that we could be. We're not putting it to work for the community as we intend to do. So, you know, I'm looking at it's going to happen, but if it doesn't, then will we find another project like this? It may be a long ways off before it comes along.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else? Anybody online? We'll see none, and I just remembered my last question. Kyle, please. If you don't get the additional funding from us, will you not build this project?
It's difficult to give a yes or no answer. What I want to say is we see a lot of positive, I think the chain reaction of this approval will do good beyond even this significant contribution of funds, because it will signal to all those other stakeholders that the project has made good on these projections that have been put forth for some time. So it, even in the way Councillor Townsley is saying, that it does breed doubt when the project goes on and has, you know, it's not hitting its marks, let's say. Fully understand that. And so some of what this gesture, which will be very noticeable to all those other parties who have significant, there are folks who have a lot at stake in this too. Folks internally to our personal guarantors, our company, and you know, and other third parties outside of us. So it is an extraordinary commitment from the city, for any city, to do something like this. So and I think that is not lost on the folks that have done this before. So I think it's a big message, right? That the city wants this type of project. The city has decided this was the project they wanted to see happen, maybe not in the way they wanted to see happen. But that goes beyond what we could tell them, you know, about, hey, we're ready, you know, because I think we really are now. We had a lot of these things go right. The challenges are there's still challenges that will, I'm sure, come up. But so I could, if this was declined, we would continue to seek other ways to do it. And that's yeah, I mean, we're already right pursuing alternatives in case this doesn't work out, but it gets grim the further we look out into the future. So that's what we're trying to work against.
So I have to be honest, your answer you just gave me kind of makes me think that there is other money, that you may not need all our money.
I wouldn't want to say we're not, an affordable housing project can go years trying to close. This one has gone years. we've had this land under control since 2022. We've revised the purchase and sale agreement 5 times. And so we have real fatigue with the seller at this stage. Our investor has been involved since our Light Tech award in December of 24. So, and I don't want to go through all the scenarios that happen if this doesn't happen, but there are some things that will go on that will create some bad momentum. And so we are pursuing other sources of funds because we have to get ahead of that bad momentum. We're not going to say, oh, darn it, we're not going to build this, right? That's not how anyone would handle this, right? A lot has been pushed, a lot of effort has been, and thought, right? Even going back to the fact that this was 131 units, probably wasn't the right project at 131 units. And we kind of knew that, but we're saying the area needs this type of housing, you know? And so if things were to align to build this project, it would be an unusual win, right? For everyone involved. We'd all be fortunate to be a part of it. But the sacrifices then, those have to be weighed. And for us here, we're just asking for more money. So we have the easy part in that sense, in terms of this. But is there money out there that we're not pursuing? No, we're pursuing every dollar we can find.
And I appreciate where you're coming from. I just want you to understand that our mandate here is also to watch over our funds, over our 2C housing funds that was supposed to be used for many other things, but with this contribution, and I'm not saying I'm against it, I'm just saying it's a lot of money, like everybody else said. We're stretching it thin. Now, for what it's worth, housing projection, or I should say vacation lodging projections are looking up next year. So hopefully we will not get in trouble with too low of fund balance in the 2C fund. But anyway, I was hoping for a yes or no question, but that's fine. No problem. Anybody else? Any other questions? We'll be done. We already asked the public. We'll bring it back. Entertaining a motion in item 8, Canyon Vista financial contribution. Councilor Townsley, please.
We do have a session for just comments here before we make the motion.
I'd prefer the motion first, a second, and then we discuss.
I would make a motion that I had reservations until we heard from the workforce housing members that are here, because that was, it's their money that not their money, it's our money, it's the citizens' money, but that helps me. I was going to ask the people here on the council that sat on it, but based on that, I would make a motion that we do approve the funding the way it's been given to us. I think Steve can figure out how to work it out best between he and Carl, and, make sure that we're covered and make it, I would.
Kind of everything we discussed.
Everything that we've discussed. Definitely be against any type of ever going back in and dipping into the general fund to support this. The other thing I would say to Kyle is that if you come back to us for one more time and say, I need more money, I would say scrap the project. Seriously. Just so that's out front. I just, let's get that out there. So in that case, I would make a motion to support the ask from the staff.
All right, thank you. And Mayor Pro Tem Solinsky.
Can we include that we backfill the fees as part of that motion? Yeah. I want to make sure, no, the ask.
Part on our end here.
It's on our end.
Councilor Townsley discussed that.
Without a doubt.
Okay.
Those do get backfilled. They get backfilled before any of the other money gets paid out. I mean, we go ahead and we pay ourselves first or very quickly, therefore, and we also up the number of units to 40.
So this is the 3.8. Really,
it's 3.8. We up it to 40. We backfill ourselves out of that.
40 is in the motion.
40 is in the motion. And I think that we're just protecting ourselves up front. It's, all we're going to do is we're going to get paid later back if for some reason that doesn't happen. I think it probably will. I think just the nature of it will probably take care of that.
Okay.
So we had a motion with extended conditions and ideas and findings.
And then I would like to second that motion.
Okay, excellent. Now, it is already I don't know what it is, almost 9 o'clock, but open for discussion. Councilor Schachter first.
I would just like to get clarification because it's not in front of us. We got 1.57 million, a conditional loan, in all likelihood, that will be forgiven. We got 785 approved prior. We're gonna approve another,
No, that's what we approved today.
no,
785.
that was approved once already. 730, I mean.
Yeah, 730.
And we will get fees paid, is that based on this motion?
Yes.
Then we have another 1.5,
2 times 785.
785 in addition from the workforce housing.
So we're gonna come up to a total of 3.8.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Smith.
Thank you. Does this motion assume or specify where the new version of fees backfill comes from?
That would come from the city back billing. So
Right, but from which fund?
From
of the
2C.
city? From 2C,
From
not
2C,
from.
not
other-
using the general fund.
Yeah.
Is it time for comments?
Yes.
Okay,
Mainly discuss.
and to discuss.
That's right.
To discuss. My inclination for many weeks has been not to support this amount of money while being enthused about the project, because of the crimp it puts on all the other programs in the Workforce Housing Fund. I have a particular preference toward services and projects and initiatives within that fund that favor home ownership. And this is yet another dose of a rental, a greatly improved rental version. But we're gonna lose opportunities on down payment assistance and other things that contribute to actual home ownership, which I think has a different set of benefits. I won't make a motion or an amendment, but I'll kind of pose the question to see if other council members want to comment. In spite of what I just said, have been inclined to vote yes, because I felt like that's the instruction I had from the Workforce Housing Advisory Board. That last version of advice from that board didn't have the new double dose of $730,000 in it. They didn't have that in mind when they said that. We heard from two members. Should we, by question I posed to see if anybody wants to respond as you get your turn, should we wait 2 weeks and give them another chance to meet and advise? Otherwise, I'm inclined to support it because the current recommendation from that board is supported. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Schachter.
Counselor who?
You?
Me?
Yeah, are you Schachter?
I've shared concerns, and I think I've said it of Counselor Smith. I'm concerned about the ongoing ability of workforce housing, but I'm also struck with, I think what many of us realize is there is not an opportunity like this, even though it's not owned, to provide this many units of quality, long-term rental housing at this price for Glenwood, let alone any community. And that alone, the social benefit combined with the Glenwood benefit would make me support this, even though I'm concerned, and some of the other concerns I've heard up here about risk. The risk sounds like because the risk of fees are really not, tap fees are not at risk. We've got tranches of payments. We've done what we can with an established developer to minimize the risks. And I've heard from what I consider a fairly fiscally conservative member make the motion. I will support it because I don't think we'll have an opportunity like this during any of our tenures here. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Townsley.
I want to acknowledge what Counselor Smith said, that I'm with you. I would like to see us doing more for home ownership and pieces like that. I think everybody I talk to says we've got enough rental properties. I just think this one is different in that it serves a portion of our populace that is totally unserved by anything else that we've looked at doing. When you get somebody that's going to come in at those percent AMIs, and have a place to live in Glenwood and call it home, we're not supporting that anywhere else than anything else that I've seen done, whether it's down payment assistant, good deeds, anything else like that. So that's where I'd draw the difference on this one. While still saying that I think what you're saying is exactly right. I would prefer to be looking at stuff that's home ownership versus more rentals. I just think that we are providing something here that's not provided anywhere else.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just reiterate what both Counselor Townsley and Counselor Shatner said. Not everybody can buy. And so far, everything that we've done with the workforce housing funds has actually gone towards ownership with Benedict, with, or sorry, not the Benedict, with the Carter, with the Confluence, with the down payment assistance. Some people just either don't want to own, they don't want the responsibility. They may not have a credit limit or credit rating that would provide that opportunity. So, you know, this does fulfill a need. The other thing is, I remember when I was lobbying for us to start to, you know, create this fund, and it was really not very many people thought we'd be able to do much with it. This is really extending, adding 80 domiciles to workforce housing is not something that's insignificant. And I think that that deserves recognition as well. So, you know, I think that although we are tying the hands for the next couple of years, I think we are still being good stewards with the money that was funded in the intent that it was meant to serve. So I'm in full support of this.
Thank you, Councilor Schachter.
Thanks. I also think we haven't precluded home ownership at this point. We've got a commitment to good deeds that, depending on how financing goes the next 2 years, could continue. And we might be able, there's nothing that precludes us from another grant for our own down payment assistance. We've created 40 homeowner units at the mobile home park. I think the accomplishments are huge. Should it be skewed in the future, hopefully to home ownership, if it's economically possible in Glenwood, yes, but we haven't shut it off yet. And so we still have those programs going on for at least a year or two, pending what happens. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? So I'm looking at these two balances in our funds for 26 and 27. And I'm not struggling. I'm just weighing back and forth. And I'm looking at your project, and I'm hearing everything you guys said, and a lot of it rings true. The 20 to 80% AMI is simply unheard of. We do not get that kind of project. Even on free land, we don't get it. So, and who's to say we can't run these balances down? Why do we have to keep stuff in it? If there's other thing that comes along, the money's here to be spent in the intent that we collected for. So I will support this, but I just want to point out it's a lot of money. It's the most I've ever spent. It's a lot of money. And I think you respect that. I really do, that we're doing this contribution to help you build something that's for the greater good of Glenwood. And I think that's where I went with left, right brain, kind of figuring out what this is. But Councilor Townsley hit it on the head when he said this doesn't come along very often, and whatever we have built in the past is a far cry from it. So I think that's it. I think with that, I'll call the question.
Well, the motion was a little piecemealed. Can I read it so we all are
Please
in
do, Ryan.
cahoots? All right. Approve the funding, including the backfill from 2C, with details worked out by Carl and Steve, the way it's been viewed, and avoid using funds from the general fund. And if this project comes back and asks for more money, it's denied.
That's awesome. And the 3 units.
And the 40.
Including 40 units instead of 20.
Thank you.
I was taking it.
I know. Well, okay, so
We have an actionable motion.
I was gonna say, I think everybody understands the motion, right? And everybody gets what we're doing. That is not included. But I think it was, well, it was heard. I think it was heard, yeah, so. All right, I also like the 40 units. That's, I think, is part of the deal. So anyway, with that, I'll call for the question.
It passes 7-0.
Right. So. You're gonna come back and give us updates, right?
We'll do well by you all, and, I wish other parts of our team could be here. but,
Can you come to the microphone? Yeah, please.
Look, it's a heavy commitment, right? For everyone involved, this is a heavy commitment because for one person you're serving, you're not serving someone else, and you want to make sure. And I think we do want to do good. And I think that we will make good on this commitment to build this in the manner that we're promising to do it. And we will share with you how we're making that a reality, because the challenge is ongoing, right? Things will be unexpected things are going to happen. But that every project I've shown you, unexpected things happen, rather than tell you those horror stories, because nobody wants to hear that, really, right? But we get to the finish line. So that's all our efforts will go there, and we'll do our best to keep the communication useful to you in terms of how we're going to get there.
I'm pretty sure we all we'd love to hear updates of what's going on. And you did hear Councilor Townsley. This is it.
He used the word scrap.
Bag is full. There's no more. So,
Yeah.
anyway, thank you.
We appreciate your time to listen to this and thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you. Do you guys need a recess? Okay, 5-minute recess.
We have a short recess.
Yeah. Beverages are-
But before we move into item 9, resolution 2025-29, I'm informed that we are moving item 10 and 11 to next meeting, which is December 18th, from what I know. So those 2 items are out for tonight, and I started without Steve being here, but that's just how it is. Moving on to resolution 2025-29, affirming intent to follow proposition 123 expedited review guidance. I think it's Watkins for a few minutes.
Thank you, council. This resolution is mostly a formality. This is a requirement from the state for those who opt into Proposition 123, which we did. We are required by the state to review affordable housing projects, which is a term that is defined. I can tell you what it is if you need to know. We have to process those applications within 90 days of a receipt of a complete application. There's plenty of detail in there. They allow 3 different kind of distinct review periods, which we do have, which they account for. And there are also some exceptions, some extensions that are allowed, and we can get into that if we need to. So in Glenwood, we mostly meet these expectations. We mostly do. There are some times where we would have to make some adjustments, and that's what we've laid out in this resolution here. Statistically speaking, if you submit an application on, I think it's September 23rd of 2026, that would be the very worst time in the year to do it if you want a quick decision, just because of the meetings that get moved forward because of the holidays and our 8-week deadline. But these deadlines that we have are not in our code. They're a policy that we set in our department. And so therefore we have the ability to move them up when we need to. And so this resolution would just affirm our commitment to efficient and responsive government, and to hearing all these, rendering a decision on these applications within the 90 days that state statute requires.
Okay, excellent. Remind me again, what's our benefit to belong to Proposition 123? What do we get out of it?
We get funding. There are
What have we gotten so far?
The Canyon Vista, which you just heard, they are applying for funds from the state that they would not be eligible for if it weren't for us being opting into Prop 123.
Just because Glenwood Springs is part of this Prop 123, they're getting funding for it because it's within the city limits?
Or at least they're eligible to get funding for it, yes.
Really? It's not funding for our personal housing project.
But it can be that too.
Oh, okay.
Right, yeah, that's just
Okay,
one
so-
of those things that one of the benefits of opting into 123 is things like that.
And I guess the good thing about the Canyon Vista one, it's 80 units against the 94 calendar year we have to produce, right? Even though it's 2 years out or split over, doesn't matter. Okay. Okay, excellent.
Yep,
Any other
and
questions?
there are other projects too that we get money on.
Right. I know we do. Any questions about the 123? I guess we got Counselor Townsley.
So I guess my only question would be efficient government. So we're passing more resolutions for something that we already do, and that's making us more efficient. I always thought we should take more stuff off the books to become more efficient, but we're already doing everything that we need to meet the criteria of Prop 123.
Yeah, this is actually just more creating the paperwork that we need to mail into the state to show that we're doing.
Does it actually do something extra than what we could do anyway
Well, we get some more money from this potentially.
for the resolution or this?
By doing it. by
That's,
doing it
that's
in
what I want to
quality,
hear.
yeah.
If there's a benefit to it, otherwise efficient government by having more things passed, I think is a oxymoron. But if there's more funding that you can get out of it, then sure.
With
Thank
no
you.
matching requirement.
Counselor Small.
And that was what other requirements of opting into 123 are attached?
Well, the main requirement of Prop 123 is that you have to agree to increase your supply of affordable housing by, I think it's 3% by the end of 2026. So that is what you're committing to do. And in exchange for that, the state makes available all these different programs, grant funding programs.
That's right. It was the increase by 3% per year, right?
It's a total of might have to double check on the number, but it comes due at the end of 2026. And the number of actual units that we have to create or to permit is 65.
Say again?
65 units. So I'm not answering your question about the percentage, but that is the number of units, 65.
And you see any problem with what's currently underway in making those numbers?
We are on track to do it. The projects, Cannon Vista is going to help quite a lot in that way. The mobile home project will probably count. We're probably going to make it. Yep.
I think the project with all three
I can say that.
qualifies.
Some of those will. That's
Yeah.
Benedict, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be fine on the number piece.
Yeah, because Canyon Vista won't go online in time to probably count in 2026, right?
It will, as long as we issue the building permit before the end of
Well,
2026.
it's at the building permit. Oh, good. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? None, we'll see none. Kick it to the public quick. Anybody here to comment on this resolution? See none, close the public portion, bring it back to council. Resolution 2025-29, entertaining a motion. Council Schacht.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, regarding resolution 2025-29, affirming the intent to follow proposition 123, expedited review guidance. I move to approve.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve. Looking for a second. Council Weimer.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? See none, we'll call for the question.
It passes 7-0.
Thank you, Ryan. Moving on to item 12, ordinance 2025-37, appropriating funds for the fiscal year 2026, one reading.
This is why she had to sit here the whole night.
That's right. Yvette, please.
Looks
lovely to see. Oh, thank you. I figured. What'd you say? Oh, yeah. Let's.
Moving on.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Yvette Stead, Finance Director. This is another one of our last pieces of budget for 2026. You approved the budget back 2 meetings ago.
Yep.
And this is just appropriating the funds and putting them, appropriating them for 2026 to allow us to spend the money.
Sounds great. Sounds easy. Any questions? Councilor Weimer.
Why can't it be one thing?
It's just budget rules that you have to approve the budget and then the adoption of the budget is separate.
Rules by
The state budget.
the state. They say you have to approve it, and then later on you have to
Appropriate.
appropriate it.
Yep.
Efficient government.
That's right. More efficient government. Any other questions, Steve? See none. Anybody from the public like to comment on this ordinance? See none. Close the public portion and again, bring it back to us. Ordinance 2025-37, entertaining a motion. Councilor Townsley.
I move that we approve ordinance 2025-37 appropriating funds for fiscal year 2026 as written.
As written, thank you. We have a motion to approve. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion on the appropriation? See none, we'll call for the question.
Seven zero, it passes.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Yvette.
Thank
Have
you.
a good evening. We are at council comments. We'll start on the right hand tonight. Councilor Smith.
Thank you. A handful of, thank you again to staff and mayor for scheduling an executive session in the afternoon. That's different from late at night. I just think typically these sessions take on topics that need us to be at our best mentally. So I like that practice. Hope it can be continued. Second, I'm intrigued now that we're into the actual enforcement phase of the speed control cameras, that it would be helpful I suggest to the whole council, certainly helpful to me, if we can have an update soon on how that implementation is going, to see if we're getting at least initial results that we're hoping for. My anecdotal stand on the corner and watch measure says it's working. Seem to be actually slowing down on those spans where the cameras are, but it'd be nice to see if there's some data. Related to that, I'd like to have a discussion with the police department and with council about what apparently is an active enforcement of a longstanding state statute about appurtenances to cars obscuring license plates, because license plates are key to this speed enforcement. I continue to get calls and notes from people who have been stopped because they have a ski rack or a utility rack or a bike rack on the back of their car. I think from what I can tell so far, that's counterproductive to at least two of the purposes of this program. One is to free up officers to go do other work instead of spending time on patrol, or put them right back on patrol with this new thing. I also think that a key component of this to make the speed actually reduce is public buy-in, goodwill for this program. And I think this may tamper that goodwill by haggling people over their ski racks. So I'd like to look at alternative approaches and have that conversation if council would and the staff would agree to schedule some time.
So
for that.
Councillor Smith, since we have a process, and if you get two more councillors on board with this idea, then we can schedule it in a workshop.
Oh, can I do that right now?
You can do that right now.
Can I get two head nods that we'd like to have a conversation about that?
And what is it exactly about the enforcement of the obstructed
I'd
license?
like to hear from the police department when we do it about what appears to be stepped up enforcement of a state statute that says you can't obscure your license plate with mud or with opaque covers or a bike rack or a tool.
So not to take the wind out of your sail, but if we do schedule a workshop and there's actually a state law that says you have to enforce it, is it worth a talk? Is it worth?
I mean, I think it's,
My intention is not to get into the debate tonight.
No,
I
I'm
would
just,
like
right.
to-
I'm
I
just curious
think
if we
there-
need to spend the
you
time.
can't change the state law. You could probably have a discussion around where we spend time. But I would respectfully say that getting into the operational details of your PD is probably not the best use of you guys' time, honestly.
What is my route to seeking options and
I
alternatives?
think if you wanted to talk to your city manager about it, and he can maybe set up a meeting with the chief and you can have a conversation around it, but
I guess I still contend that I'm gonna be smarter if I have 6 other smart people in on the conversation. I can come with what I'm hearing anecdotally so far, and that's a selective amount of information, but I'd love to have 2 other council members join and saying, let's at least have a conversation about this.
I appreciate where you're coming from. I really do.
You asked me to ask for. 2
Oh,
more heads.
absolutely.
I'm asking for 2 more heads.
Right. And so can we get 2 more heads or to spend 15 minutes in a workshop?
About obscured license plates.
Enforcement. That's what I think it comes down to. And it's state law that they can't really not do it. Councilor Townsley.
I think for us to get involved in the police department is wrong. On the other hand, if Councilor Smith feels that it would be helpful to hear from the police department, at least why they do it the way they do it, then taking 15 minutes to do that I'd be in favor of supporting him on that. I don't think that, being a younger person that wants to put mud on my license plates to avoid that, I don't think we can get around it, but if it's important to you, then you'd like to hear from them as to why they're doing it, then I would nod my head, yes.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so that is.
Halfway there.
We're halfway there, that's right.
15 minutes?
We're talking 15 minutes.
Yes.
Are you okay with a 15-minute discussion? Steve?
15.
Oh, sure. We can do it.
All right, we'll put it in a workshop.
I
for
appreciate
15
it. Thank you
minutes.
very much.
Mark your calendar, Lieutenant Hassel, Chief Hassel. I don't know what to call you nowadays.
Yeah, in our last meeting, I think it was the last meeting or last workshop, we talked about having more regular distribution of calendar for future work session topics and future city council topics as they become available within staff discussions, to have the council know about that. Are we still on track to have that come out? Thank you. At the city council's October 2 meeting, there was a request from 2 or 3 of council members to seek some clarification, either conversationally or in terms of policy as regards meeting procedure. It started in a conversation over whether we have policies on remote attendance by city council members, but it also included some other things about timing of motions and content of motions. And I remember it, we referred that to city staff, including the city attorney, for some draft proposals for us to consider. What's the timing on that?
I think we were planning it for the second meeting in December on a work session.
Coming right up. Thank you very
Yes.
much.
I can't remember if somebody's gone. Marco's gone, that's right. So that's why it wasn't on the list that we put in, because I didn't know if you wanted us to do that while you were gone or not.
You guys can handle anything.
It'll be on the second meeting in December.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Also, I had a surprisingly pleasant experience prompted by the staff evaluation process that Councilor Schachter coordinated. I went to court. I realized that I don't have a clue about the city judge or the city court process, so I sat in on 2 sessions, learned a lot about how that operates, and frankly was very impressed. I said so in my evaluation, but it was an intriguing experience. I was, among other things, I was particularly impressed that we have a very deliberate, very well technically set up translation service, both for court proceedings and for proceedings at the payment window. And that, again, among many other positive things, there is a very deliberate connection between the court and youth zone, apparently. Referral to youth zone can be a form of sentencing or plea agreement. And I thought that was a very creative partnership. So I learned a bunch of things. It was a nice experience. Thank you. Finally, at the last meeting, Councilor Schachter conveyed a recommendation from a citizen for a book we might want to read. I read it. A walk around the block. It's basically a citizen's guide to Matt Langhorst's world. Is kind of how the urban structural infrastructure world works. I've read it. I've got 2 more weeks on my library checkout if anybody wants the book. So it's available. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Councilor Schachter.
No comment, thank
Councilor Weimer.
Said anything all night long.
I got it. Okay, I'm good. No. No. Councilor Townsley. No, I'm going from the outside in.
Oh, okay.
Just.
One comment I've got, and it was kind of highlighted tonight when we had 2 citizens got up, and I feel bad sometimes when people get up and it's tough, they're obviously pretty emotional and upset about things. But I think just one thing that I've thought about personally as being a member of council, and I'm really want to work towards next year, and I would just encourage all of us to maybe do the same sort of thing, is to talk to people and try to get people to come and use that 3 minutes, not to necessarily complain about something, but to tell us what they see us, how they see us doing our job, what they would like to see us be doing, what if there's things that they don't want to see us be doing, what they like, but just to use that 3 minutes as a forum of here's what I think as a citizen, because I don't think we get much feedback in that piece, except for people that are riled up about something or are pretty ticked off about it. I don't think it has to be a bitch session, but I think it would be good for us to encourage people to use that as a way of giving us feedback, that it's not survey based. It's not, somebody made some questions, we put a survey out to you. So I think as we talk to people, encouraging them to use that. And the thing that I would ask is that if somebody's up there for 3 minutes and they're winding up their comments and the bell goes off, we give them 3 minutes and 15 seconds. If somebody's just running on, you know, it's going to keep going, we need to cut them off. We're all for that, but we make it a little more personal as if like, okay, wind it up. It's coming up, but finish your sentence, finish your whatnot on that. And I think that could be a valuable tool for us. So I'm going to encourage people to do it. And I would like to see, it would be great if everybody could, because we all see a lot of different people out there.
Okay, sounds good. Counselor Schmall, there we go.
I just had another train of thought going off sideways altogether, but I would like to continue on that. I would like to hear our side, because I don't believe it was exactly as it was portrayed by either of the people who testified here. But I can easily see both sides, and maybe I don't even need to hear from our side, because I believe it's all justified. But the customer service perspective, I think, is what all of us should be taking, is that our citizens, our taxpayers are our customers, and we should be trying to do our best to make sure our customers are happy. I know it's within limitations as to what any of us can do to keep our customers happy, but we want them to be happy.
Thank you. And Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
Yeah, I agree with what you just said. Two things. One, I got a request from a member of the community about the ice melt that we use on Red Mountain. If we could maybe look into something that's paw friendly. Lots of people hike that with their dogs, and apparently the mag chloride is really pretty tough on paws.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's something that could be a consideration, but I wanted to put that out there because that seems pretty reasonable. And then on that topic, I always encourage people to email us because our emails are published. It's a great way that you can, I am much more eloquent in when I type it out and I edit it and I think about it than I am when I'm trying to talk, especially in a high stress environment in front of a bunch of people staring at me. So I encourage people to email us. And then also I question sometimes with our firewall if I'm getting all my emails. There's times I've heard that people say that they've reached out and I just don't have it in there. So I wonder if that's something we could look into. And then, yes, encourage people, definitely come and be heard face to face because it also goes on the record and that's important. But if it's stressful, if it's intimidating, feel free to email.
The people I've talked about said, write it down, you know, exactly.
Totally.
Just read it to us, but then they also get to, but then they also get to see what goes on here, get a feel for it. I remember when Spencer came in and, you know, I talked to him before and after, he's like, man, it was really cool to sit there and see what you guys deal with and see a little bit too. And I think that's valuable for people.
Wholly. And I think the more engagement we get, it's definitely a drum I've been beating since the day I decided to run for city council. So I could not agree with you more. I think there's multiple different ways that we can get people to feel heard. And I think being receptive to all of those is important.
Excellent, thank you. So to play on that a little bit more, on customer service and many ways to engage with the public, I hope to see you all on Saturday at the Holiday Bazaar for a donut and a cup of coffee. And for whoever shows up and wants to bend our ear. I was there last year and it was rather pleasant. It was a good morning. I have to say that was one comment. The other comment is in the past, council used to have breakfasts together. And that's just the seven of us sitting around a round table and talking.
You know you love your meals.
Yes, I do. Family oriented. This is how it is. Mother of the nation. So I would like to see if we could schedule something beginning of the year. We used to do it about 3 times a year. And I think January's coming up, bless you. So maybe Steve can send out a doodle and we can see if we can get.
You're doing it in different districts.
We usually, well, a couple times in the past, we did it at the hotel, Colorado, because they had this beautiful, and the diner, we did the diner once and so on. So we can pick wherever there's good breakfast. And we can't make any decision, as we all know, but we can at least chat and get our visions out and however we, whatever we want to talk about. So Counselor Townsend.
There's a brand new breakfast place. The guy, you've probably seen him on Nextdoor, is doing the Himalayan restaurant. They're doing breakfast now. I'll give him a quick plug. I went over there the other day and man, it was good. They got a great cinnamon roll.
The whole
And they're-
different,
Okay.
it's a whole different provider.
Yeah.
They're subleased.
Oh,
Their coffee cups are about this big.
really?
You know,
All right,
it was,
Steve, then,
it
so
was
let's
excellent.
see if we can reserve that and then pick a date for January and then 2 more throughout the year. That's one thing I'd like to do. It was always very, I don't know, it was helpful, I think, for team building and productive, exactly. The other comment I have is I went to the lighting ceremony at the hotel, and first up, thanks to Hotel Colorado for putting it up again, and it was spectacular. It went off without a hitch. It was the show was great, the music was great. It was just a great evening. It wasn't too cold. It also wasn't very crowded. I think we had a smaller crowd than years past. But that said, the bridge got still clogged up. You could not cross the bridge at the end of the ceremony. It took a 20 to 25-minute wait to get across the bridge. So we went through Two Rivers Park instead because we knew that way. But getting at is I want to commend the city for working together with the Hotel Colorado to make this happen. I know we had a lot of departments involved, and I felt very safe there because you guys put your snowplows in crosswise into the streets, so nobody could drive in. I thought that was brilliant. I just think it was a great event, and we worked well together, and it went off without a hitch. It was wonderful. So I want to say thank you. And with that, we'll go to city manager.
We had a couple of guests show up tonight and express some displeasure in, an encounter they had with one of our employees, 2 of our employees, both of whom happened to be in the room at the time. I will tell you that customer service is something that we take very seriously. We talk about it. We think about it. We do take it seriously. I don't get very many complaints. When I do, I look into them. And I can tell you that in both of those cases, I've seen enough body cam footage. I've heard from enough people that overheard some of those discussions to be able to say, I stand by Robin Pitt and John Hassel entirely without condition on those things. It is a little bit discouraging sometimes that somebody can come in an environment like that where there's not much we can say or do about it, but we are taking customer service very, very seriously, just so you guys know. And if you find or come across something where we may have made a mistake, we'll own it. We're not perfect, certainly. But I appreciate that you guys are willing to give us the benefit of the doubt when things like that come up. So thank you for that. I've been meaning to send an email and I keep forgetting. We do have a problem sometimes with email getting lost. I've had a few times where somebody's like, dude, I sent you 3 different emails, and I go back and usually I can find them in a junk folder or something. That's happened to me a couple times. So if you guys find that you didn't get an email that you expected, let me know. We're still kind of working some bumps out in our firewall process and stuff. And the last thing is we are members of the Rudai Water. It's RWAPA. I don't know what it stands for. Yeah, that. We need a representative from council. I tried to pawn off a staff member on him, but I can't do that. It needs to be an elected official. It is a very small commitment. It's a quarterly meeting, and that's it, like a 30-minute thing. So I'm hopeful somebody will raise their hand.
What's the location of the meeting?
That's an excellent question.
Is it Meredith?
Love Meredith. You do that for us? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
That's it.
City attorney.
I don't think I have anything tonight, but thanks.
Okay.
Well, it's 9:45.
Yeah, that's fine. They still make margaritas. It's not a problem. Any correspondence?
Nothing here.
Okay, thank you. Social event announcement. All right.
If we choose to reconvene, I would like to do so at Tapatio.
Where?
Tapatio,
Our new favorite place.
my new favorite place.
All right, sounds great. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second.
Is that good?
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, see none. Meeting is adjourned.